Welcome to Level 1 Walkthrough. I'm your host, Tony, along with Rob, aka Big Boss. How's it going, man?
Pretty good, man. How are you doing?
Good, good. I'm just living through this pandemic. How about you?
Same.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was last week that we had talked, and I wanted to just go through, and there's a couple things that I wanted to get into now that we have a little bit more of a structure of this, so it doesn't seem like we're kind of doing this like through just like our fingers and just kind of just like I think this sounds good or whatever, but it sounds like now we're gonna be professional. Basically, is what I'm
Oh
trying to
no.
what I'm trying to get at. Yes.
But it will be good. It will kind of keep us to a more timely, way of doing things, and
Yeah.
also structuring it in a way where we can kind of build a podcast together.
Well, see, that's the thing too, is that we need to have structure because we go on tangents, and
Yep.
the last episode, if anyone hasn't seen it, it's almost about 3 hours, and
Hmm.
that's the problem. Is that Rob and I just have a problem of talking too much, and I thought I had a problem, but we're both admitting it.
Yeah. That's the
That's
first step.
yes,
That's the first step.
that's what I heard. So along with that, we have a couple segments that's going to be in this podcast, and it's going to be going on for the time being. And wanted to actually do this first and actually let everyone know that people, if you haven't heard any of our previous podcasts, Rob had just recently joined us a couple episodes back, and now he's a continuing co-star. So we structure now is kind of going to be a little bit more tighter. We're going to try to be able to keep everything a little easier, a little bit more free flowing, but also just keeping it tight. So, but in that case, is our first segment called Know That Bit. So what I do is play a song from a theme song from Nintendo, Super Nintendo, or Sega Genesis, and I get a Big Boss to see if he knows what it is to try to trip you up.
And maybe soon I'll flip the tables. But
Good, good. I
tune
don't
in.
good because I don't want to make it seem like I'm a know-it-all, man. That's the last thing you want to have. There's a lot of things that I don't know. I don't know a lot of things. I don't know a lot of things about like tools or anything like that. I I go to Ace Hardware store and I look at all these tools. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I get lost. I get
Just tell
lost.
me. Just tell me what to buy, and I'll buy it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't give a shit.
I had one guy always like trying to sell me a big tool or a big was it a drill? He was like, "Oh, how much torque do you need?" I was like, "I don't know. I just need something to put up my drawer. I'm putting up a shelf. That's it. So
Hmm.
what do I do?" He's like, "Oh, you need this to this." I'm like, "Okay, I'm not gonna spend $80. Give me
Yeah.
the $30 one. I'm fine."
Yeah. And
But I
so
was like,
that one job is not going to be like in constructing a house
yes,
or some shit.
yes. And that's what he kept telling me. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here, man. I should have just told him, dude, I don't belong here.
Wait, was that guy Tim the Toolman Taylor or
Yeah,
something?
I wish,
Dude, more the torque. Yeah.
I wish it was. I wish it
Mm,
was. All right, so let's go into the first song. Let's see if you know this one.
let's try it.
All right. Any thoughts?
No thoughts whatsoever. That one I just don't. It doesn't resonate anywhere in my brain at
Damn
all.
it.
I know.
Damn it.
Try playing it a little bit more.
Okay, so if I'll give you a little hint.
Okay.
It's from the Nintendo era.
Okay.
It's from the original Nintendo era. So maybe that might help. So let me play it over again.
Damn.
What you think?
Um. Hmm. I'm just gonna guess
Okay.
because I just don't. I feel like that beginning part I
hmm
should know, and I can't think of anything. But I
hmm
will just say Mega Man.
Mega Man is it's a good guess. It's a game called Life Force. It's
Mm.
a side-scrolling shooter where kind of like an R type
Hmm.
of game,
Hmm.
just like that. Or if you ever played those uh Garius, those games.
Oh, like Gradius or whatever.
Gradius, yeah, that's right,
Yeah, yeah.
Gradius.
Wasn't
Yep,
that? I think that was Konami too.
I
Um,
believe so. Yeah. But yeah, Life Force was originally on the Nintendo and the original NES, and I mean, I that was one game that I played a shitload. Like my with my brother, we played that all the time. So I mean that one when I hear it, I know it. It's like those side scrolling shooters. Those really fun.
and the funny part about that is I have never heard of this game
What?
at all. Like it's not like to me this is more obscure than anything else because I remember Gradius,
Mm-hmm.
I remember like the R type kind
Yeah.
of games or whatever. But this name, like even after you told me, I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, and that's
Wow.
semi rare for me to like. I might not know the tune, but usually if someone says a name, I'm like, oh yeah, so it was on that console,
Right. Right.
or I can get some kind of information,
Right.
but definitely not.
Wow. Okay. Did you play any of these like R type or anything like that?
I remember playing Gradius. That was one that
Okay.
I did play. Um, but this one, yeah, I'm looking at some pictures and things like that, some scans from it. But yeah,
Jeez.
definitely
Okay.
doesn't ring a bell whatsoever.
Damn.
But
That's
those were always fun games, though. Just the old school side scrolling
yeah.
kind of stuff. And then I remember there was a PS4 launch game that was like that. I'm
Was it
trying to
is that
remember.
the one that was like you were like in a circle?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember playing that. It was like a downloadable game. Yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah, there was well, so there I don't know if it's the same one that you were thinking of or not, but the PS4 one I'm trying to look up now. Resogun. So there's that
Yeah,
one
that's right. Resogun. That's right. Yeah,
and
that was a fun game.
that was awesome. And then like the PS3 one where you're actually on a planet. I'm trying to remember that one. I'll probably just look.
PS3. Hmm.
PS3. I think it was a launch game as well. Was it Starship?
Starship Troopers.
No. Starship.
One day somebody will make that game.
Oh, didn't they make one on like
Yeah,
PC or something?
we did pitch that idea. So if anyone was listening, we copyrighted and trademarked that. So it's official because we're professional now. So you have to take us seriously.
You have to. It's mandatory.
That's the law now. When you say it, it comes true, and it becomes
We
law.
yeah, you will it into the world, and
Exactly.
it's crazy every not everything that we say, but like there's things like even when we're talking about the Injustice comics, I forgot to mention a couple podcasts ago when we were talking about that.
Yeah.
Ed Boon, the creator or co-creator of Mortal Kombat,
Yeah.
he mentioned that he wanted to do an Injustice movie on Twitter. And I was like, we just talked about
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah.
fucking crazy.
Yeah. That would work. I mean, you could see it. It definitely would work. So you're not finding it.
Now I'm trying to see PS3.
Well, I mean,
Um,
whenever I think of Life Force on the original Nintendo, I always think of like 1942. Do you remember playing that?
yes, yeah,
Okay,
I do.
so that's kind of what I always think of. So with Life Force, it's like the same thing.
Mm,
It's not in a bird's eye view of the actual like a centipede type of game where you're moving just left and right. With Life Force, you're moving from left to right and you're going up and down. But what the cool thing is that you get power ups, so you can choose different type of kind of like just like any gun, any game that's a shooter. You can change in different varieties of different guns that you can use. But
mm,
the one thing that you get on top of that is you can get these things called options, which are things that are like a little bubble that will shoot the exact same gun that you have that's behind you and it follows you. So you can actually get two of them so you can expand your range of like how much you can shoot from above and below you. And then you can also get like a little shield that will protect you. So if you get hit, if a bullet hits you, the shield will take that one hit, and then you'll keep you from you'll be invincible for with one shot. So
and I
it's
wonder
a
if
really fun game, man. Really
I
fun.
I wonder if that who like which one came first because I remember that being somewhat of a feature in one of the side-scrolling shooter games, and that might have been Radius. Or no,
Yeah.
was this? There's like another one I think my brother played was like Silver Gun or something. That might have been on Joe's.
Silvergun. No, I don't think I played that one.
Yeah, I'm just spouting off names now, whether it's true or not.
You're just trying to be able to just say, hey, I don't know this, but I know these other ones.
Yeah, I do. That's what I tend to do. Radiant Silver Gun. It was on
Okay.
XBLA, but I believe it was also like a really older game.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Nine.
That
Yeah,
doesn't sound familiar to me at all.
Sega Saturn. Sorry, it was.
Okay.
I was close. It was
All
not
right.
Sega Genesis. It was Sega Saturn. So I'm not crazy. I'm not fucking crazy.
Okay.
Well, we'll see. I
All right.
always tend to do that. I always tend to like,
It's
sit there and
okay.
go like I spout off these names and I vaguely remember some of them, and usually I'm average.
You get a good amount. I mean, with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you knew that that was a Konami game.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
knew that. You knew that off the bat, but you didn't know the game.
Nope. Someone's there.
All right, let's jump to the second one. This one I hope you really do like because you and I had talked about this well before you even started becoming on the podcast itself.
Oh,
I might have given it away, but okay. All right, here we go. What you think?
oh God, this is so familiar, and I can't remember the name.
You and I had talked about it.
Hmm.
It's it
Mm-hmm.
it's a Sega game. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, was it Altered Beast?
We had
Mm,
talked about that. No.
damn. Echo the Dolphin.
Yes.
That's what I fucking remembered it
Yes.
from.
Yes.
Yes, the fucking ocean. Yes, I
Yes.
remember that.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
awesome.
back in '92. Yes.
Fuck. Oh
And
my god.
you had told me, I don't know if people, I don't think anyone really knows about this, but can you tell the people that are listening the little a little brief history on that thing, because that game is just really bizarre, and like what you're telling me what it originally was, or the idea or the concept idea of it.
Yeah, so it's again, there's so many things I read about video games over time that it's so obscure, and there's things that I pick up on like tidbits and I just remember whenever we're talking about games and I'm like, "Oh, I think that was the thing." I look it up and again, half right or whatever.
Right.
But there was so the creator of Echo the Dolphin actually I believe was doing ketamine.
Okay.
So he was a scientist. So he ended up creating Echo the Dolphin, but it was mostly just like the the dolphin was an alien, and he like it was this whole crazy story about him. It's on Vice if anybody wants to read it, on Vice News. So if you just search out Echo the Dolphin
Yeah.
and the like creator, it's a very interesting. It's kind of a long thing because
Mm-hmm.
he goes into doing LSD, um, and he basically talks about how he created the game, basically being high. But he was a scientist, and he created that, and it's very interesting once you
What a
read through that.
what a trip that you say that I mean, you just had to just be a simple thing as a dolphin. You just play as a
Mm-hmm.
dolphin, but not only that, it had to be he made it into something that's an alien, and just so strange. Like, why add that?
Yeah, and again, I like so from now briefing through, he had migraines, and his friend suggested ketamine to get rid of them, and then he started doing that, and it kind of started going into a different direction and thinking about how things are created and things like that. So it's just he did a lot of drugs to create that, and it's one of those games, man, that I just remember as a kid wanting into, and it being so difficult, and just figuring out how to get through things.
Yeah.
Um, but it basically goes on to state that there's like his fantasies, like between him tripping and him like creating this game.
What a wild thing for especially like kids that were playing this game, and they had no idea what the creator had in mind.
Yeah, and
Like
it go.
what a wild trip that is.
So he, and this is a little bit more graphic, but there's some sessions that when he was high. So let me just read this little brief thing. So
Okay.
during his sessions, some person named Lily came to believe that he was being contacted by an organic extraterrestrial entity called the Earth Coincidence Control Office, or ECHO.
Which is
It,
hold on, say that again.
Earth Coincidence
Coincidence.
Control
Control.
Office. This
ECCO.
ECHO.
Echo.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This alien group was benevolent, omniscient, and in control of all earthly matters, except for when they weren't quite so friendly as one to point out. Lily thought they'd make off with his penis.
Oh, Johnny, what's up? I thought I pulled my cock off. Oh, Jesus. It's okay, I didn't.
So,
This is the creator.
yeah,
This is what he wanted.
that evening, he states that I took 150 milligrams of ketamine, and suddenly the Earth Coincidence Control Office removed my penis and handed it to me. I screamed in terror. My wife Tony came running in from the bedroom, and she said, it's still attached?" So I shouted at the ceiling, "Who's in charge up there? A bunch of crazy kids."
Oh my god.
So that's just like a brief little window to Echo the Dolphin on Sega Genesis. So if you want to read through,
Yeah, that sounds
really.
really interesting. And that's, hey man, that's back in the 90s, man. I guess it was too legit to quit to do that. So whatever.
Right? Shit. But I remember reading that and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, that's like one of the most crazy origin stories about a video game that I've heard in my life.
I've never heard anything like that. And the one that's wild is like Super Mario 2. But I mean, that one you definitely see that there is some influence there. But I had no idea that Echo the Dolphin, that the whole idea, even the name of it is just an acronym for something else. It's just like that's just blows my mind. That's crazy. But yeah, we'll post up the actual link in the podcast so that you guys, if anyone is interested in being able to see that, you can definitely see that, and then you can see little segments with this along with the video version that we'll have along with this podcast.
Yeah, I'll text it to you now so you have it.
Perfect. So okay, so along with that, with Echo the Dolphin, that one is.
Do we need like a better segue?
No,
just leave it there. Okay.
Yeah, just that's perfect. That's the whole reason why I thought of it, because I was just like, oh, what else can I be able to try to get you thinking of like something else? Because I always like talking about these games back when I was a kid, and like in the early 80s. Like 90s was like where my jam is. That's where everything started. But I always like going back to it because it always brings up like a lot of good memories. So,
oh, definitely.
Yeah. So, okay, now we're going on to our second segment called gameplay, and what we do on this one is we talk about the games that we've been playing this week. Rob, why don't you go ahead and let me know what you've been playing.
Okay, so I could only get through. Luckily, a couple of days ago, I beat Dead Space. So I just
nice.
I feel like I put in maybe like 15 and 20 hours, like on How Long to Beat. Beat's website, where you can look up different games and how long they usually take. Yeah. I'll usually post up like 10 or 11 hours for just straight playthrough, or for completionist 15 to 20. So I think I was in that range, even though I felt like I was kind of getting through it a lot faster, since there was only, I think it was like 12 chapters. But I enjoyed my time in. It was fun. There are some things that I wanted to like talk to you about, because I know you've loved that game, but it's it's also been a while since you played it, right?
Yeah, I played it when it came out, and then
2008.
I remember going back to it about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I was moving some stuff, and then I saw it there. I was like, hey, you know what? I haven't picked that up in a long time, and I went back and played it, and it's like, man, I forgot about this. I forgot how good
Mhm.
this was. Just the environment and the sound alone is what drew me into it.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff was just very eerie.
Mm-hmm.
Where you know, again, me playing it for the first time, well, I guess because when I first started, I only put like a half hour in. So
Yeah.
when there was certain things popped up, I remembered, so it didn't freak me out as much. Especially like the beginning elevator scene where you're going to, you see the like monster for like the for one of the first
Yeah,
times,
that's right.
and it like tries to break in and like go
Yeah.
through. And I remember freaking out the first time I saw that. Um, but there's a lot of cool things that they add in there
Mm-hmm.
that you don't really see, at least in the games that are out now. But a lot of cool things that they added, which was like the zero gravity thing, being able to kind of turn it off, kind of push yourself onto different walls,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of whether it's to solve puzzles or like traverse to a different area.
Right.
And then meanwhile, you know, the aliens will pop up and kind of either float through space and try to, you know, attack you forward,
Right.
or they kind of hang on the walls and try to attack you differently. I thought that was a cool way to like initiate a different mechanic
Right.
that you don't normally see. And again, it was used with puzzles or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just trying to traverse through different areas. But I enjoyed that aspect of it.
Good. Good.
Also, the telekinesis. So being able to use that specifically, I liked it more in the puzzle portions of it, where they kind of just you can use it, pick up objects, move it to a different area, or you know, move it and enter like almost like a key and putting it in somewhere so you can get energy and be able to open up a door.
Right. Right.
So I enjoyed those. I didn't find myself using it on enemies as much. I
Oh,
probably
dude,
used it.
I use that all the time. I couldn't. I had to slow them down, especially the ones that run at you.
Oh yeah,
Those ones I had is like just slow down because they just come at you real quick.
those dudes like are fucking nuts. But I end
Yeah.
up usually having the one gun. It's almost like a machine gun, and I just use that a lot. I had like the three triangle like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
layout and being able to shoot those guys pretty quick. So
Yeah.
I didn't really find myself using it as much, and I felt like I probably could have used it in you know a more smart way to in combat.
Yeah.
But I never really found myself needing to. I usually had a decent uh, like timing portion where I felt like there was enough distance, or I was in a like a separate area where I could get kind of in a corner where nothing's going to come behind me, so I
Right.
could see these things coming in a way where I have time to chop their
Right.
limbs
Right.
off and things like that. But that stuff was fun. I think the limbs portion, like being able to cut there was just another aspect in the game mechanic
Mm-hmm.
that again games don't normally tend to do, is just really just shoot it until it's dead or
Right.
shoot it in the head, but
Right.
not necessarily like chop the limbs off. That's the only way to like you know defeat the enemy or what
Right.
have you.
Right.
So that was something that I felt was something unique in this game. So the other thing, which kind of threw me off, because they added ragdoll physics in the game, which you know more and more games obviously have.
Right.
2008, you know, they added it in this game, but it's kind of it kind of takes you out a little bit once you kill some enemies and they're all on the floor, and there's like an NPC that like walks by and just moves it as they
Oh
walk to
yeah,
kind
that's
of like
right.
move it, kind of like
Yeah.
what, that's kind of weird. I found like there was a couple of times where an NPC that I was talking to would just like go over the dead bodies that I just killed and just kind of kick around by like
Yeah.
them just following a script.
Yeah.
I kind of laughed to myself. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I get you're like realistic in a way
Yeah.
where, but they kind of like it's you can walk by it yourself, and it kind of flips a little bit too much. I felt like if they brought it back down a little bit and kind of
Yeah.
tweaked it, so it wasn't that like I kind of now just thought about it. It kind of reminded me of like kicking a balloon that's already like not deflated, but it's on the ground. It's
Yeah.
not going up. You're kind of kicking it around. It kind of feels like that, where
Yeah.
it's a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Uh, but I found that kind of funny.
Yeah, I like the idea that they did do that because I totally forgot that they have that where when they fall on the ground they stay there. They don't just disappear. But I remember when that would happen. I remember if I ever ran out of ammo, I
Mm.
remember that the bodies were still there, and I would grab their limbs with my telekinesis, and then I would shoot it right back at the enemies if I didn't have any ammo, and would like
Mm.
it would impale them up against a wall.
Oh yeah,
So
good call.
I remember using that, and I remember there was times when I pick up the head and I would just look at it. And I'm like, man, this is so weird that you can even do this. But you can pick up little pieces of the actual corpse, and I don't remember if you could pick up the corpse itself. I believe you
Well,
could.
so in the when I was watching after you mentioned like you should probably play the second one, I
Mm-hmm.
watched a review from IGN. Greg Miller was doing the voice over that, so that was funny. But
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't notice it till like midway through that like 5 minute video. I'm like, I know it's that voice.
Yeah.
But in Dead Space 2, he mentioned that you could do that lift and I don't know if it again I didn't use the telekinesis in the first game as much as
Mm-hmm.
you have, but at least in the second game, I've noticed that he showed a video of him shooting it against the wall and impaling it. So I don't know
Okay.
if it happened in the second one or if it was in the first one, but I had no idea because again, I
Okay.
rarely used it, so I don't know.
Yeah, you could be right on that. They probably expanded on that idea with the second one. But yeah, I mean, I with the actual the ragdoll, I can see how that they can get tripped up when like they're walking through, and they can get stuck on the characters because that still happens to this day. There's so many games that still have that where you pull the actual the dead carcasses along with you if you get
Mm-hmm.
stuck if they get stuck on you like I remember they did that happened a lot in Bloodborne where the characters would just
Mm.
latch onto you after they're dead because it would just stick there and you would try to get them off of you and they would just stick onto you or like the enemies would move them with you and then like it was just weird it would just it would distract you for a second but it's like why couldn't they just stay right there like why do they need to move but it's it still happens to this day.
Yeah, and I actually, you're right. Yeah, I forgot about it being in Bloodborne
Mm-hmm.
as well. Um, oh, the one thing I was going to mention back to the way that you could kind of navigate with the zero gravity. Sometimes, I mean, and this is to be expected, if it can get disorienting at times. So
Mm-hmm.
that was like the one issue that I had. Certain portions of using it in a certain room and having to like destroy certain things
Yeah.
within that room. I was kind of like, where am I? What am I doing? Well, that's to be expected. I mean, you're basically shooting yourself upside down at times or at the ceiling, and then how I have to flip, and then you know what I mean. So that kind of
Right.
fucks you up a little bit, um, but either way,
Right.
I thought that was a interesting mechanic to throw in there.
Yeah.
Another thing was which was really cool when it was where they were in like space in certain portions where you don't like you have a certain amount of time
Right.
for your air.
Yeah.
Um, I there was one portion where I used the flamethrower, and as soon as I tried to kill an enemy that was in front of me, I tried to use it and it didn't work. I'm like, what the fuck?
Right.
What happened? I was like, oh, I can't use fire in space.
That's right.
But it's so it like it kind of teaches you that kind of thing, and it even the deathly silence of being in outer space kind
Right.
of like fucks you up a little bit.
Right. Because you can only hear like the thud of the actual like the feedback of the
Yeah,
sound of your gun when you fire it, and then if you don't
it's like
see them, it throws you off.
yeah, it's like muted.
Mm-hmm.
They just like toned down the music and sound effects, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, that's what I loved about that is that they kept everything in the actual game. Like even the timer was on the back of Isaac's suit, so it
Mm-hmm.
had the timer on there for you. So it's like everything stayed on the character, and even the visuals. Like I loved those little video vlogs that he would pick up, and you'd be watching them. And I was like, man, these are so cool. I love how it didn't interrupt. Like a lot of games, when you do that, you have
Yes,
to like go to a menu
I
and
hate.
then you play it and it's like, why are you doing that? Just keep me in the actual game. But they made a point to do that.
I don't know who figured it out like early on to do that, but
Hmm.
that's one pet peeve I have is like, dude, then I'm not gonna listen to it because you're stopping me from playing this game. If I have to go into a menu, listen to it, jump out of it,
Right.
then go in it, just let it play in the background like it
Hmm.
did on Metal Gear Solid 5,
Hmm.
or even just like in Dead Space, of just like having a visual for it. But
Right.
if you wanted to run, it would kind of disappear, and you'll still be able to hear it.
Right.
So that aspect, man, like just having the UI built into the back of the character was just so
Mhm.
smart. It
Mhm.
was just the smartest thing, and just being able to even not even have to pull up the map in like a hologram form. But
Right.
I forgot, like almost towards the end of the game, that I can hit like the R3 stick and just
Mhm.
hit it, and then it kind of showed a navigation on the floor
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of using the map.
Yeah, like he shoots down like a little pulse and then it like shoots a line down and it tells you what direction to go. So it's like
Hmm.
even if you don't know where to go, it at least gives you a direction of like, oh, okay, go this way, or you're going the wrong way. It's telling you to go behind you. So I really do like that. I like that they had your health gauge was there, which was down on your spine, and then you had
Hmm.
your telekinesis on your suit as well. And I wasn't there like an oxygen or something that was the other one.
Yeah, so the oxygen is on the back as well, where it just shows the timer down. But
Right.
the telekinesis is almost like a half circle,
Mhm.
or I
Mhm.
guess if you upgrade it even more, it becomes a full circle. So you can see
Right.
all of that visually on the back of the
Right.
character.
Right.
Other a couple other things that I've noticed, I do love, like, and I didn't die that often, but when I
Mhm.
did, the visuals of your body getting dismembered
Yes.
after death by these
Yeah.
monsters, just chopping your head off, and there's
Yeah.
different animations depending on the enemy. Oh man, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
You remember the one that comes out of a corpse that's like kind of it flies, and then
Yeah.
when if it kills you, it goes into your mouth, and then it like, I think it comes up through your body or like it comes out through your chest or something like that. It's like it
Oh, I
does
didn't die
something
by that.
it does something weird. It like goes into your mouth or something like that. I remember that vividly because that would happen all the time. But I remember it would just I think it would open your mouth and then go inside you or something like that.
Oh, I gotta check that out, because I didn't
Yeah.
die by those moth motherfuckers. Because as soon as I
Yeah.
saw those, I'm like, oh, you're trying to get a dead body and turn
Right.
this. Fuck
Right.
that, no way, dude.
Yeah.
So I wasn't, fortunately or unfortunately, able to die by the hands of the moth. But the as I was playing this,
Hmm.
and again, we talked about like the main character not having a dialogue or a voice,
Right.
like Isaac does, but I guess supposedly in Dead Space 2 he
They
does.
do. Yeah.
Um, but I did enjoy. I felt like, did you ever play Bioshock?
Yes. Which one?
So,
The first and
uh,
the
the,
first one or the
well,
second one?
well,
Or all of them?
I played the first one.
Hmm.
The second one, I don't believe I played. I played Infinite. I enjoyed that one.
Hmm.
But the first one specifically, it almost has a feel of that kind of story going
Hmm.
there, with some
Yeah.
like mad scientist kind of thing, having this kind of dystopian world trying to like
Right.
do. So I kind of got vibes from that, and
Right.
I looked up, because I mean, when I was playing, Dead Space, it shows the date that it was released, so 2008. I looked
Hmm.
up the date for Bioshock, and it was '07. And granted, you should. I'm sure the story has been in place the entire time during this life cycle of the game,
Right.
but it was kind of eerily reminiscent of Bioshock, which again, Bioshock is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it does kind of take maybe some of the same narrative type of pass with a one person that sees something and wants to give that kind of that vision to everybody, even if it's at the detriment of them dying and them
Hmm.
being resurrected to something. Like that's kind of what happens at that in Rapture, and then
Hmm.
also what happens in that other planet on that. What's the ship called? It starts with an I, doesn't it? It's like Ishimura or something like that.
Ishimura, yeah, I believe
Yeah,
it's Ishimura.
yeah, I mean, I the whole idea of that ship itself, I love the idea that you're just confined in that one spot by yourself, and you have to like figure out what's going on. And your character is not just some soldier, from what I remember. He's like some engineer
Hmm.
that just
He's
gets
an
put.
engineer.
Yeah, he gets put into the situation, and he wields these actual like these machines or these actual guns and crafts them into weapons to be able to take down these things. And the whole story itself of like what happens and like what they do when they're trying to like take resources out from this planet, like they find something and it just like it brings like these people to like one person to like take everybody down because he wants everyone to be this because it's like a perfect being or something like that. It's
And the fact that they added like more of a religious kind of vibe, and again,
yeah, that's right.
it's more of like a cult kind of
Yeah,
thing, and
yeah.
again, similar to like it just had those kind of vibes, which I felt was cool to see that both games kind of do that. Again, came out relatively recently from one another,
Yeah.
about a year, but again, just seeing that just reminded me of that.
Yeah, that'd be a good series if they could ever bring that back. Just because you know what Resident Evil's doing with from
Hmm.
Capcom, you can see how they're really kind of pulling back these games and making them a little bit slower, and the survival type of thing is kind of coming back. So like you could bring that series back and update it, but the problem
Hmm.
is that that game was such it was such a great moment in that in the console and like when I played on the Xbox and I believe it was on the PS3.
Three, yeah.
Um, it was a great time because you can get away with that, with it just being simple and it just a one single player. It
Hmm.
didn't have to have a multiplayer. It didn't have to have a co-op, which is what happened with the third one. They added drop in, drop out co-op. You had a
They,
cover mechanic. You had
yeah,
multiplayer. It's like you couldn't just rely on it just being a complete one single story.
yeah,
You couldn't justify it.
and that's what they did with the second one as well. They added multiplayer in there. I didn't realize
Right.
they did co-op in the third one.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. You had a partner. It's like a drop in, drop out thing, and it was.
but
I didn't even like it. I played a
I
little bit
mean,
of it.
during that time, that's when games were trying to shoehorn. And again, Bioshock Two added multiplayer for no reason. Like it was during those types of times where I think people were, or at least developers might have been scared of trying to sell a $60 game, because at
Right.
that time it was like we always had $50 games,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden that price increased. They're like, oh, we gotta try to make it worth your while, kind of thing.
Right.
But going back to like, like you said, it was on PS3 and Xbox. Like you can definitely tell. Like again, not huge into like nerdy frame rates and shit like that, but it
Mm-hmm.
did. You could see it chugging along, and from just knowing the architecture of the PS3, just how fucking difficult for developers to develop
Mm-hmm.
a game on that system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you could see it goes a long way once you start seeing like more recent titles, or later, I guess, titles on the PS3.
Right.
They figured it out, but
Right.
like during those times, that's why Xbox was winning so much, because it was just like all your online was the best, and the frame rates were better, and
Mm-hmm.
all the developers are easier to develop games on there for. But um, I did end up finishing it, and then almost gave me an incentive to go back. But again, I can't do that because I have too many games to get through.
Of course.
But they were like, oh, you added, this many points, so you can use that for like upgrading weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't really use the weapons that are outside probably the main four, which was
Mm-hmm.
like the cutter, which was your first weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So I upgraded that fully. There was like a flamethrower. There was like the machine gun looking one, and the other one was like the cutter, which was like it shoots out like a saw and cuts out your enemy. So I used those most often. The other four I did buy and tried them out, but I didn't really care for them, so I just ended up keeping the original.
Oh, okay. I remember using that one that was real heavy, and it'd shoot out like a big line, and it would just
Mm,
cut them down. Like
that one I
you
did.
cut their limbs, and then they would drop.
I ended up keeping that one and getting rid of the fire one,
Mm-hmm.
because I did see how much damage it did,
Right.
and it would just, again, big line and then cut those limbs off. So I did switch out like that one for a few
Right.
times, especially on like the one enemy that you just basically can't kill, keeps like remorphing.
Right. Right.
Um, but other than that, it's really just the
Okay.
original ones. But I
Well,
mean, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. I enjoyed my time with it. It was cool.
that's good. So you said it took how long? About 15 hours?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
Okay. I mean that seems about right because I mean if you're venturing out and kind of doing it at a slow pace that type of game, it wasn't like an open world. It was linear, so you had
Hmm.
the direction of where you had to go was there. So.
There were some small like spots you can kind of deviate from the
Hmm.
main, but like ultimately, yeah, it's very linear. You can get through it, and again, knowing the map and how you can kind of pop up that line and
Mm-hmm.
navigate through it was fairly simple and straightforward. That you're not going to get lost at all.
Okay. Well, that's good that you enjoyed it. Do you think you're gonna get into the second one?
I think so. I might jump. I don't know if I'm going to jump into that immediately or not, or try to do something else. But I did mention to you that I had like a $10 credit on PSN, and it's
Right.
like $20 for the game. There was a $30 option for like DLC added to it, but the DLC, from what I read online, was just a bunch of just like extras where it kind of boosts your character from the beginning. So it's like I don't really need that. I'm just gonna probably end up just spending $10 and just getting the game and going through it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, at least it's good that you actually got to finish the actual game and go back to it because those type of games, especially when you have to go back to like another previous console and boot that thing back up and you do
Mm-hmm.
updates and stuff like that, it's like you have to you have to be in the mood to want to go back to these games and like understand that it's going to be a little different. But I mean, the core of the story and the mechanics is one of the main reasons why you go back to that because you remember you remember fondly how good there's elements in there that got you into it, and it still did. That's what's crazy about it, is that that game still kept you on your toes. Coming back from a game that was, right now is you can see other games that can be able to be even more like successful, like how Resident Evil's doing, where they're
Mm-hmm.
making it more ambient, where
Mm-hmm.
you're stuck in these worlds. But that one was like in its time, it was perfect. That
And
first one
that
is just perfect.
and that's the testament to how good the game is, right? So
Hmm.
like me being able to, bust out my PS3 just using
Hmm.
I just, plugged it and wired with a PS4 controller.
Yeah.
But just being able to still get through and, some control mechanics were different, like I was mentioning before, trying to relearn that they wanted the front two L1 R1 to be your aim and shoot as opposed to the back ones, which over time it's kind of gotten reversed. But
Right.
it's just goes to show you, man. I mean, even some of the older games, I just wish I had my PC with me because I would have probably rather do that with a controller. So frame
Yeah.
rate would have probably been better and things like that. But
Right.
either way, it was a
Okay.
fun time.
Good. Good. Well, that's good that you finished it. You enjoyed it. But yeah, let us know if you jump up into the second one and see how different it is, because they gave Isaac a little bit more. They gave him
Mm.
more of a role, and he actually had a voice now. So it's like you heard a lot more about him. So he would kind of narrate of like what is going on with his character, and like what happens in after the first one, what happens in the second, like how it keeps with him.
Yeah, we'll do, man. Because I mean, again, I'm on this like weird horror kick after like original Resident Evil 3, the remake, and then
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna end up going and doing Dead Space, but I also might revisit some of the older Resident Evil games that I played before, whether it was Origins, which I think that one had like
Hmm.
um, it was a remake with both games in there from the GameCube version, because I think they updated the original RE1,
Oh,
and
did
then
they?
there was
Okay.
another one where it was uh, kind of instant, like you're playing two characters almost at once,
Oh, okay.
and you can teleport between the two and complete puzzles and things like that that you normally wouldn't have access to without the other partner. I'm trying to remember exactly what the name was.
Hmm. I, do- I that doesn't. I, I can't remember exactly that. Doesn't draw any memory.
Resident Evil Zero, I believe.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because that one was the one that was co-op. So yeah, you played a female and a male character. But I remember playing that on GameCube. And I loved it. So I might go in through like even more horror games. So stay tuned.
That's good. That's good. I mean, keep it up. I mean, you've really like you got me to the point of like wanting to go back and actually go back and play the first one again. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy those moments, because I remember them just being so fond on these little elements, especially when you went outside into space and you're on top of the ship and you like
Oh yeah.
they take away all that sound, and it's
Uh,
so good.
when that
Like
happened, I
the
was like,
timer
wow.
was really fun. It was loud. You could
Mm-hmm.
hear it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's good that you went through that. And with me, I mean, the thing that I've been playing is Stranded Deep, which came out on the PC in 2015, and they released it on the PS4 a little over a week ago. And It's a survival game. You essentially you play as a character that crash lands on this island, and it's kind of like the think of like Castaway with Tom Hanks. Think of that, but in it with that you have the ability to craft items. It's a survival game, so you have to sleep, you have to eat, you have to drink, you have to be aware of your UV rays of like being out in the sun.
Oh
um,
wow.
all of it's based on your wristwatch. So your watch is basically tells you your health indicator and all that. So you can press a button and you can see your wristwatch and you can see like your health gauge and all that stuff. Uh, Idea of it is interesting because your character just crash lands. He's taking a. It looks like he's on a private plane, and then he just crashes in the middle of the ocean, and he gets on a life raft, and you have to go to an island. You see an island, a remote island, and you basically have to survive, basically. And you can go to each. You can take your life raft and go to. You can actually have to row yourself to the next island, and then
Oh shit.
you kind of have to like get your resources together before you do it. So I wasn't really familiar with the game coming out on the PS4. I remember playing it a long time ago. Um, I can't even remember. I mean, it came out in 2015, but I remember playing a little bit of it, like a demo or something, and I liked the idea. And I never played it on the actual release on the PC because I for some reason I thought that game came out, and then I just saw that it was coming out on the PS4. I was like, oh, you know
Well,
what? Let me try that.
yeah. Well, you said 2015. I'm like, fuck, really? 2015? I thought this was something recent. That makes sense.
Yeah,
So it came
yeah.
out PC and then first time on PS4. But again, never heard of this. And it's I don't know what they're doing with like marketing wise, but like what like you should probably tell people about this shit.
Probably. I mean, I think they might have just done like a soft release because it's exclusive on the PS4. So, I mean, the idea of it is good, but there's a lot of like little problems along with it. Like my first experience of getting the actual game and playing it, within the first 2 hours, I was almost to the point of like, why did I spend the money to play this thing?
How much was it?
I think it was like 14 or $20.
Okay.
15 or $20, something like that.
So it wasn't like too crazy, but
No, it wasn't bad. I mean, I when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, you know what? Let me go back to let me play this." Because I've totally forgot about it.
hmm
And playing everything's basically there. You can on your life raft is essential. You have to have that. That's like your main thing that you have to use in order to go from one island to another. But
well, how do you get that? Is that like already built in? Like you crash land
y-
and you have it, and that's it?
yes. So
Okay.
the first sequence is that your plane crashes, and then you basically you have the ability to you have to swim out of your plane, and then you get up to a life raft, and then you get on it, and then it shoots to like the next day where you have to move your raft to an island. So you're basically rowing yourself to the island. So your raft has some storage on there. You also can lay down your anchor. So when you're a little bit further away from the island, you could throw an anchor down, and then your life raft will stay there because you're dealing with the ocean. So the water current will actually move it. Um,
Oh,
but the problem is, okay, so the concept of it is fun. It's interesting. Uh, but what happened was in the first 2 hours, I found myself like wondering why I'm going to continue with this game because I put down my life raft right next to like a sunken ship,
hmm
and I dropped my anchor, and somehow my anchor got stuck onto the actual sunken ship, and I didn't know I couldn't get it because the raft kept flipping, like kind of like it got stuck, kind of like the
oh, yeah,
ragdoll
yeah,
physics, and it kept circling and it kept moving around. I couldn't grab onto it.
like glitching out.
Yeah, like I didn't know what to do, and I'm like, why is this even happening? So I had to restart it. I did it again, and then well, once I did it again, and then my life raft got stuck on another ship, but it got stuck on like kind of the railing of like right next to like where the you'd put sails. It's like a little thing
Oh,
that got stuck on it, so it got up and it was elevated like 45 degrees up in the air, and I'm like, how am I supposed to get that?
what the hell?
Yeah, I got on the raft and I try to actually get myself to move, but you can't. Like you have limited visuals. Like when you're sitting on the raft and you're actually rowing yourself, you
hmm
can't turn your head directly behind you. You only have a limited amount of like view that you can see.
Oh, is this first or third? What
First person.
perspective?
Yeah, it's
First,
first
okay.
first person perspective. So, uh, but with that, I say all that because I got onto it and I was just like, I don't know how to get this off. It basically came down to the life raft giving me problems,
Hmm.
and then you can get poisoned. If you get poisoned, you're pretty much fucked. Like
Oh,
you can't cure yourself. You basically have to keep yourself, with food, with water. You have to like keep yourself, in good health. But if
hmm.
you get poisoned, you get poisoned by a fish, these little starfishes that are on the like at the bottom of, on the sand in the water, like near the shore.
Hmm.
There's also snakes too that can be able to poison you. So my first initial reaction when I first started playing it, I was just like, man, I don't like this thing. I was frustrated with it, and anyone that wants to know, you can actually see the actual video clips that I'm talking about. I actually have it all on the YouTube channel, which is on a level 1 tester, and it has all of it. You can see everything that I'm talking about. And it was not until I got into like maybe the third hour, and this is my like maybe third or fourth hour, and this is maybe my fourth playthrough. Like I had to like stop it, play it over again, or like start from the beginning again, because
Whoa.
I either got poisoned, the life raft got stuck, and then it wasn't worth it. I was just like, why am I still doing this?
How? Wait. How is this like the save system work?
So okay, so that's the only way you can actually save your progress is you have to build. So you have to build everything. You have to build a shelter. You have to build
Hmm.
a water still, which is it collects water for you,
Hmm.
and then you have to fish. You have to get your food. You have to skin it. You have to put it on the campfire. You have to wait for it to get cooked. You have to eat it. You can make coconut flasks, which is with some lashings and a coconut, and it creates a little thing where it's like kind of like a little flask that you can be able to use. You can put water into it, and
Hmm.
then it can refill. So what happened was is that before I even started doing that, I started eating or drinking coconuts. If you have too many of them, you can get sick.
Wow.
So it gave me a bunch of obstacles in front of me that just it got me so frustrated. I was just like, I don't want to play this anymore.
Yeah.
But then I did on the fourth time. I got onto an island that gave me a lot of resources. I figured out real quickly, figure out how to be able to craft a water still, which allows you to be able to collect your own water. If you can do that, you collect your own water first, and then you can eat and stuff like that. Then you're fine.
Mm.
Once you get through that, you're fine because you can tackle anything you want. You can add more materials to you. You can start making leather. You can create like a leather rack that allows you to be able to craft leather. You can create a loom that allows you to create
Like
cloth,
what?
and
Yeah.
yeah, you can make cloth, you can make bandages. So after like the fourth time, I started to get into it, but I'm at the point now where I'm just like, when you're going from one island to another, you have a little bit of resources, so you collect stuff, you find things that are like in sunken ships that are on the island. You find things that are resources that you can build, and the one thing that I'm seeing is that you're getting like engine parts and like stuff for a little, like a helicopter kind of thing, like a
Mm.
gyrocopter.
Would that like
S-
connect to your boat at all, or
s-
like a
yeah, see that I don't know. So I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't know about what you
boat?
can be able to make, but the thing is that the islands are really really small. They're not very big, and they're kind
Mm.
of copy and paste islands when you go to another. So I've been journeying through from one island to another, and it doesn't give me anything. Like I almost get to a point of like, I don't want to go to this one. Let me just go to another one. But you can't. Oh, so when you get onto an island, I wish they had an ability to mark the island that you're on, so then when you take off and you turn back around
Hmm.
and you look at it, you can see that it's like, oh hey, you've been here before. So at
Gotcha.
least this way it gives you some sort of orientation within the map, because if not, you can get lost very quickly. And it right now I'm about, I'd say 12 hours in. uh I don't know what the end game is, because it
Hmm.
seems like I'm just getting on these small little islands. It is fun. I encountered one thing, which is this huge giant squid,
Hmm.
which you have to fight, and
Oh,
I
jeez.
I had nothing. I was like, I have no
Man.
weapons. And I had like a spear, and I'm like, I can't fight a big squid with this. So then
Yeah.
it just happened. There was this big buoy that was in the middle of in the ocean, and I saw it and I jumped onto the buoy, and then it was nighttime, so I was like, oh, I wonder what's down there. Maybe there's something like a chain connected to something. And then I jumped down, and then all of a sudden this big squid was just right next to me, so I had to swim back up and get away. Um, so that was kind of interesting and kind of fun that you even have that, but I've seen in some screenshots that there's bigger islands that have these remote like little villages and stuff like that you could be able to you can grab resources and stuff.
Mhm.
But everything that I've been seeing now is just really small islands, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do at this point. Like,
Right, right.
I don't know what if I'm gonna keep jumping from one island to another, and then have to rinse and repeat. So I don't know what the end goal is.
Yeah, and that's a difficult part, especially with games and developing the right way of
Hmm.
doing things. Is the balance of like having exploration, but having payoff as well, right?
Right.
So I mean,
Right.
like that's cool that you can go down and be like, oh, what's this thing down here? It's a buoy. Oh, what's this? Is a sunken ship? Oh, that like, and being able to explore different islands
Hmm.
is definitely adds to that more adventurous and more exploration portion of it.
Hmm.
But like, if there's nothing there and they're very small islands, it's like like you just said, you have to work to get over in your like fucking little water boat thing, and you have to paddle, do all this shit just to get over there and be like, oh, it's barely anything here, or it's too
Right.
small, or
Right.
it's just more of a pain in the ass. Now I'm poisoned. Like, that's not fun. And
No.
again, I like that aspect when you were telling me about this game of being able to just kind of like survive on island. That's a cool concept. Love that. We need to see more of that kind of shit. But it seems like it's kind of leaning more towards somewhat realistic things that are popping up more so than gamey things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was the only thing that I mean. I like the survival aspect to it. I like that you can be able to do that. I'm not I'm not one to be able to play those, so I don't have a lot of experience with them. But it was
Mm-hmm.
fun because you have to think about all the things that you're doing. You can craft stuff. You can you can make a better tool belt for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
so you can carry more inventory. That's kind of the thing that you need. That's a major thing you have to worry about. But I now that you can get a handle on your thirst and your how to be able to eat and stuff like that, I don't know what I need to do in order to find a big island, because I want to that's my goal, is to find a big island, but there's no like markers for you to be
Mm-hmm.
able to like leave like a plant flag or something like that. Maybe you can craft it, and I haven't seen it yet, but I couldn't see it.
But as many
um
hours you're in, like that's got to be frustrating.
right.
But you know what? I just figured out. I'll solve this whole problem. You said you were like only like what 15 hours in, 14 hours in.
Yeah.
I'll have you talk to Katie,
Okay.
and because she's been about 200 plus hours in Animal Crossing. It's
Jesus.
dude, it's on an island. She knows how to craft stuff. You just
Uh-huh.
gotta talk to her. Maybe she'll help you out with this game. Maybe she'll know something that you haven't come across yet. Because
Wow.
let me tell you, she's going hard on this fucking game. It's nuts.
I mean, I I do have the patience to be able to try to like get an idea of what this thing does, but I just don't see like what it is that I'm supposed to be doing, because once you go to these little remote islands, they're
Hmm.
not big, like they're
Yeah.
real small, and you can like circle the island very quickly within like 15 seconds. You can circle around them,
Damn.
so they're not very big, but I've seen some screenshots from the on the PlayStation on their website that it
Hmm.
shows like these kind of like ancient ruins of these villages or something on these
That's
islands,
cool.
and I'm like, well, where do I find these? Like,
Yeah.
there's no indicator of where to be able to find them. But there is a cool thing that you can actually do a world editor, so you can actually create
Mm.
all the things that you want in the island, like the resources and stuff like that you can find on the islands, and you could do like kind of like a you can create whatever it is you
Yeah.
want. So
So
you can create some like snakes. Instead of them being aggressive, they can be passive, so they won't attack you. So
is
that can
that
help you so you don't get poisoned.
is that on the PS4 game as well? Like, do they put that in, or is that like PC
Yes,
only? Okay,
yes,
that's kind of
that's the editor, because I got frustrated when I was dying so many times and having to restart. I saw that you can do that, but I I don't know what I'm gonna do because I think I'm gonna still kind of keep playing it, but I'm not exactly sure. But the one thing that I wish it would give you, and what I like is that you do swim in the water quite
Hmm.
often, but that's only when you go into sunken ships. There's a game called Subnautical. Did you ever hear about that?
No, not too much.
So it's kind of the same idea. You're instead of you being on a on a ship or on a plane, you're on this ship that's like on a voyage, and it crashes on this remote planet, and the whole planet is all water. So
Oh,
you have to go underwater. You have this little kind of little machine with you that you can be able to, it pushes you like a kind of like a little submarine
hmm.
submarine thing that can be able to push you.
Oh, okay.
uh so you have all these elements. You can get into a little ship that you can craft underwater and stuff like that. So there's stuff that you have to do underwater completely. And that game is pretty interesting in like what they did with it, because it seems interesting because the water underneath is such a mystery, and it makes it look so alien.
Hmm.
I wish they would do something like that, because your character he could swim underwater for a little bit limited amount of time. Um, but I don't think there's any incentive for me to go from an island, go underwater near it, and
Yeah.
see if there's anything underneath. Like they haven't given me that indication that I can go underwater and I can find stuff. So
And that's gonna be one of those telling things, because I was gonna ask you the same thing. Was like, are you gonna stick with it or not? And did you find out how long it is?
I don't. I mean, with those kind of survival games, I'd imagine it's like you're, because you can. I think the end game is that you can. So when you get to a certain point, you can start building your own like buildings. You can build
Hmm.
tables. You can build like ladders. You can start building all these things and craft a little thing for yourself.
Definitely sounds like Animal Crossing.
Kind of where you can do all those things. So I don't know if there's a real end game to this.
Hmm.
I'm sure that there is a story element to it. There is something that you can build. It gives you like a little story, little thing, that like a crafting thing that's kind of um, right now it's in a question mark because I don't know it yet, but it's
Hmm.
there. So you at least I'm sure you build like some sort of plane, and then you can be able to fly away.
Oh,
So
that would make sense. Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking, but I don't know what you do in between. I don't know if you interact with any people. I don't know if there's an online component that I can be able to see another person. I have no
Mm-hmm.
idea.
Mm.
So right now I'm kind of like 50-50 right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna play anymore, just because I'm not exactly sure. But I don't know. This it was kind of a gamble to get it because I was
Yeah.
interested in it. But now that I've gone through it, I'm just like, should I
Well,
what should I do?
and yeah, and like I usually mention, it's like I don't like games where I'm like, oh, it'll get better like 20 hours. I'm like, I
Right.
don't want it to do that.
Right.
Don't do that. Like
Right.
grinding for grinding's sake. You know, we played some RPGs, so we know how that works. But
Mm-hmm.
like being able to play something for 15 hours and be like, it kind of goes, in the realm of like, all right, well, yeah, like you said, 50-50, because otherwise, I mean, you could be playing other games that are probably more engrossing, or far
Right.
better to the for your time. But well,
Or I can just be playing Animal Crossing.
yeah, God, don't do that.
200 hours, man. I mean,
At
that's
least, dude, because like last week she was on. I think last week was about 130, and
wow.
then it's been like a daily occurrence. So
Wow.
she's up there. She's got to be like 220.
Do you look at it and just kind of like shake your head a little? You're just like, I
I
don't get it.
I love it in a way, because it's like it's seeing her addicted to a game, like, so she can kind of have a reference point of me being the same way,
Right.
being like, how could you, I mean, she'd never say this, well, how can you play this for so long? It's
Right.
never a question. But if someone were to be like, oh, how do you play it? And then someone just gets addicted to an Animal Crossing game and
Right.
starts doing it, it's like, now you see what it is, man. And that
And
kind
night
of,
and
I kind of love that. It's just like,
yeah.
oh, you're having as in a fight side story with that is, she goes to bed early, but
Hmm.
there's certain times where you can like look at the sky at
Hmm.
night, and
Hmm.
between like, I think it's like 8 and midnight, where all you do is stare at the sky, and there's
What?
shooting stars that pop up occasionally, not every time, could be at
Okay.
any time, but there's like a musical cue that pops up, and you have to just, all you do is hit A, and then you get a shard, like a shooting star shard, that you'll get the next day. So
Okay.
she'll go to bed, and I'm like, chilling, watching something or whatever, and I'm just making sure she gets her star shards.
What
So
a wow.
we're teaming up in a way where she'll get through certain things if I need to help her in that sense. I might as well. I'm not doing anything else, so I'll click through and I'm like, oh, and she's asleep. I'm like, hey, I got like 20 shards. She's like, okay, thanks, I love you, but it's late, so tell me tomorrow morning.
Well, like if you you're just like, well, if you don't care, I'm just gonna just go ahead and turn it
I'm
off.
gonna turn it off and not give you any shards, so don't even complain about this shit. Uh, but it's funny to see. It definitely is.
What a wild idea that you're just looking up into the sky and then you get something.
Yeah, and
And
again, it's like random. It's not like 1 hour you might get one or two, another hour you might get like six or seven. Some you don't get at all. But luckily, there's like a musical cue, so I don't have to like literally stare at the sky. I can just fucking hear something click over.
but you're not doing anything.
No,
You're
you're
just
just
you're just letting the game idle.
yes. That's exactly what you're doing.
I've never done that.
Oh man, I'm sure we've done some crazy shit for games.
I think I've done that with like Red Dead Redemption, and just I stood out. I would be on my horse, and
Mm-hmm.
I'd get up on the real high part of like a canyon,
Yep.
and just wait and just watch the sky
Mm-hmm.
go down, and then the nighttime, and then just see the landscape of like how much it changes. That's the only thing I would do. But I'm paying attention to everything. I'm just looking. I'm just like, man,
Yeah.
this is so cool,
Or even
so
just like
interesting.
when you have to go after certain animals that you have to kill, like it's clearly like you have to get a pie somewhere or shoot from a
Right,
distance or whatever,
right,
depending on
right,
I guess the animal.
right.
But seeing that kind of stuff or doing that kind of stuff is
That's wild.
yeah.
I don't know. I guess there's an audience for everything. So
Yes.
there's a gamer for everything. So and
Um,
it's probably one that I'm not familiar with.
and shit, like it was funny. I remember her like debating on whether to get a Switch or not, and this was when we were living. She was living here in Washington, and I was still back home in Delaware. Just because, again, the way that it worked out, I still had to work in the position in the state, so we were living like long distance, which sucked.
Hmm.
But she was like, "Oh, I can get a Switch and we can play together online." I was like, "Cool!" And I like started coming up all co-op games that we could do and things like that. But then we didn't get really much usage out of it,
Hmm.
at least her portion. She's like, "I really haven't. I feel like I wasted money." And then like, one day, the new Animal Crossing was coming out. I was like, "You should probably get it. I mean, you have like a coupon thing. You should probably download it. It's kind of like Sims. You kind of like that." And I was never into the game, but it's cool. Like, trust me, everyone's getting into it. She
Right.
was like, all right, I'll try it, download it, and dude, off to the races. It's over.
And that was it.
Like, that's it. It's crazy.
Jeez.
I love it
Jeez. That's good. I mean, I'm glad that she's enjoying it.
though.
I mine is not all that great because my initial the thing that I don't want to sound like a person that's just constantly like negative.
Okay.
The thing is like you just like a movie. There's certain times that you have to be able to grab people's attention. Like in a movie, you have to like set up the character's motivation, character's environment,
Mm-hmm.
the world. You have so much that you have to get people's attention into being committed to finishing this movie. Just
Mm-hmm.
like a game. If you're crashing on an island, you give me a little information, give me something, but when there's technical glitches that happen,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like
Yep.
why is this a problem? But what I found out is that they give you a little marker very quickly, a little tutorial right when you get onto the island for the first time. It gives you a tutorial on how to do stuff and how to craft items, and then it just like lets you go and says, okay, we'll do whatever you want. But there's a point where it tells you if you want to um, throw your anchor down for their life raft, you can do that, or you can hit L2, the trigger button, and you can pull your life raft around. You can pull objects. Basically, you can grab things and move it.
Mm-hmm.
If I would have known that when my raft got stuck up on that boat, it would have saved me so much problems.
Oh shit.
But the game it understood that I was sticking in one spot for a couple seconds
Mm-hmm.
or for a while. So there was no reminder of like, hey, if
Right.
someone gets stuck on the raft, shoot up a little tutorial and little tell them like, hey,
Tip.
you can grab them, you can
Yep.
grab the stuff,
Like a little
S-
tip
something,
cue, something at the bottom. Like,
something.
hey, you should probably use this instead.
Yeah, that should have been that should have been something that happened, because if that happened to me from the very beginning, that obviously happened to people, and you can put the raft anywhere. Like you can get it close to anything you want. If it
Hmm.
gets close to like the coral reef, like it'll stop. But you can get it pretty close to everything, and since the water has actual movement, if you leave it alone and you get off and you go on the island, your raft is going to be gone.
Hmm.
It's gonna float away from you unless it gets stuck. And when it gets stuck, that's when I didn't know what to do. So I was just like, I was frustrated with that. So
Yeah.
whether it was my inability to remember that I saw that cue, because it was in the very beginning minutes of the game,
Hmm.
I didn't retain that. But because it didn't remind me again, I didn't notice it until I saw, when I died, it had a little tip thing that popped up. Oh, you can grab items with the left trigger, so you can grab and
Mm.
pull items, and you can pull your raft. So I was like, okay. So every time that happened, I would grab my raft and pull it onto the island, onto
Hmm.
shore, and I'd sit it down, plank it down, because there'd be storms sometimes and the water would kind of kick up a little, and I'm
Right.
like,
And then move it
I'm not
around.
gonna, yeah, and I'm like, I'm not gonna risk it. But
Hmm.
long story
Yeah.
short, I'm not exactly sure where I want to be with this, but I think I'm gonna still kind of put in a little bit of time here and there, but not as
Mhm.
much as I thought I could, because the whole survival thing is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what you're gonna end up doing. But going back to real quick, when you said like the like in movies and games, like within a certain amount of time, it's like things have to be set up, the world, things like
Right,
that.
right,
Unless you're fucking Michael Bay, and every fucking movie you make of the Transformers is two and a
right,
half fucking hours, and I want to blow my brains out.
right.
I don't know why
Wh-
I'm doing this to myself because again, kind of funny is doing a review of Transformers, and I'm like, I'm at I think it's the third or fourth movie with it's the first one with Mark Wahlberg. I was
yeah.
watching it last night. Granted, I was intoxicated a little bit, and
Okay.
watching, I was like, this is so bad. And I looked up, and I only 40 minutes went by, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it's 2.5
Yeah.
hours. What am I doing? Why am
Yeah.
I doing this to myself? But apparently, I probably should rewatch it because just Mark Wahlberg is.
Okay. I'll save you
Sorry.
some. I'll save you some trouble.
Yeah.
On YouTube, go to Red Letter Media,
Yeah.
and these guys, they do movie reviews on everything. I've showed
Yeah.
you who
You
they are.
mentioned. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they watch a lot of B movies. They basically just film critics, and they did one where they watched three of the Transformers movies in sequence with
Oh
three
God,
TVs,
I'm
and they
down.
watched them all at the same time, and it's nauseating, because they're like, what, they don't know what's happening in the movie. Like, they just watch them because
Uh
they
huh.
they understand what these movies are, and
Mm-hmm.
they they can't understand the plot, and it's just like they don't get it, and it's just because the story's not,
It's
it's not big on anything. It's just like all this big spectacle.
Yep, it's
But if
nonsensical, and then also Michael Bay.
right,
I didn't realize this, but he recycled a lot of the action shots. So supposedly, in some of the movies, he repeated certain things that popped up. So,
well, of course, anything that's going to save them money,
oh
why
my
not?
god! But then again, I'm like, you stop fucking making it so long. Make it like
Right,
90 minutes and fucking in and out, and like that's it. Like you don't need 2.5 hours of fucking narrative that all people want is to see Bumblebee and fucking whoever fucking killed Megatron and shit. Like, no one cares.
right,
But
right.
apparently people keep seeing it, so I guess
Well,
whatever.
they have a big audience overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Like
China, yeah,
China loves Transformers.
that's
So
true.
I mean, so they don't make a lot here domestically, but internationally they make their money. So they can afford to be able to make these movies. And maybe it's just a big middle finger to the audience, to people that actually like give a shit about movies, that like if you're watching that for almost 3 hours,
Yeah.
it's like a middle finger, like, hey, this
Oh,
movie's going to be long enough, and it's going to drive you nuts, but I'm doing this on purpose because I can.
yeah, exactly. And I'll mention this to, again. We rant and rave a lot, but I'll mention two quick things
Hmm.
about that. So I did end up watching that Michael Bay like presentation where he basically
Yes.
because
Yes.
he did mention it wasn't him lack of memory. It was more of like the prompter not showing what it was going to
Well,
say
that's
next.
even worse because
But
I didn't mention that because I totally forgot that it
yeah,
was that specifically. But that's even worse.
yeah,
You
because he could have just like, because even the presenter
ex-
from I think it was Samsung, right? He like, oh, what are these
yeah.
things going to do for his movies? And like, you could have just made anything up. You could have been
Yes.
like, it's going to look awesome. It's going to
Yeah.
sound better. It's going to
Yeah.
be like whatever. Just make it all up, and he just
Yeah.
couldn't do it, and it was fucking hilarious. Another aside is you might be proud of me.
Mhm.
Is again they're doing in review,
Mhm.
kind of funny crew, but they're also doing like Kevin Smith movies, and I've
Mhm.
never seen Clerks,
Okay.
and I watched it for the first time. God
Okay.
damn, that fucking movie! Let me tell you, that's some good
Yes.
shit. I fucking
Yeah.
love the banter back and forth,
Yep.
the verbiage that he used in there, like just the
Mhm.
way that it was shot, fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Took me that long, and I'm still fucked up because I still haven't watched The Big Lebowski. But rest assured, I will get to that because I've downloaded it and I got to get to it. But
Please do.
yeah,
Please
so
do.
I'm trying to balance fucking movies, video games, life,
Yeah.
work now that
Yeah.
started up, and school as well. So
Yeah.
it's kind of tough, but I'm trying to get through as much as I
Yeah.
can.
That's
Anyway.
that's good that you saw Clerks. I remember seeing that when it geez, I don't even know when I saw it, but I remember seeing it a while back, and
Mhm.
yeah, I like it. I mean, that's really what kicked off Kevin Smith's career, and I mean
Yep.
he's still making that those characters have its own kind of like universe where the characters jump from one movie to another. So
Mm-hmm.
he created his own like universal movie,
Yep.
in such a way, like an MCU kind of thing,
Yep.
where they're all interconnected in some way, well before anybody else. So, I mean, yeah, I mean the dialogue on those characters, like those long takes that they had, where it's just a two shot, and they're
Yep.
just the camera just sits, and then they're just talking. It's great, man. I mean,
Love
Dante's
it.
character you can relate to, you
Mm-hmm.
understand, like Randall, you can understand like all these situations of like what happens, like just the very beginning where he falls out of his closet
I love
where
it.
he's sleeping. Why would you even do that? Like,
Yeah.
are you that drunk you pass out in the closet and you close the door on yourself? It's like,
Well, so they did end up mentioning that in the podcast when they were reviewing it.
oh, okay,
But they did say, because it was the weirdest thing. I was like, why would he just sleep in his closet? His bed's
right,
like 2 feet away. But
right.
I think they do mention in the movie, and they did make an assumption of that he was on the phone with his ex girlfriend, and he was up late that night, so he probably was at home living with his parents or what have you, didn't want anybody else to listen, so he was on the
Oh,
phone late talking to his ex in the
right.
closet, and ended
Okay.
up passing out, and then like I guess either the phone rang or something happened.
Yeah, the
He
phone
ended up
rang and then he
falling
just
out
falls out. Yeah,
or whatever. So they did mention something like that with it, but dude, I enjoyed that movie a lot. It was
yeah.
again old, not old. It's a '90s movie, but the lack of technology, lack of
Mhm.
money that Kevin
Mhm.
Smith had to make what he had, limited shots. He had to make what he had to make it happen, and just the fact that that was him. That's his store that he worked at. That
Oh yeah.
convenience
Oh yeah.
store. Like
Oh yeah.
I didn't know any of that shit. He was just like, yeah,
Right.
we're shooting at times where no one could, like, it was off hours, and they
Mhm.
made a smart decision of being like, well, that's why the gates are down and there's no sunlight in, because they were filming at night, and
Mhm.
they made like like they the Dante said something about the gates being broken, or a gum being stuck in it, so they couldn't raise it. So they
Right.
made that known in the movie so that
Right.
you could, oh, that's why there's no sun coming. Like, it was just smart doing like all
Yeah.
that stuff. That's my little tangent
Well, that's good. That's good that you saw that. The second one kind of expands on Dante a little bit more.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's
I'm gonna get through that too.
if it's your taste in that type of movie, but the first one is that movie itself is I remember just watching it. I liking like I'm big on dialogue. I'm big
Yeah.
on like scenes where like Glenn Glary, Glenn Ross. I love that movie just because it's all these salesmen that are just talking to each other, and they're just the camera just sits on them, and they're
Hmm.
just it just watches them actually play off of each other. Like even Al Pacino's character, where he's at that Chinese restaurant and he's talking to a guy and he's talking to him about life and
Hmm.
everything. But what he's doing is that he's pitching him, but his pitch is like, hey, life is shitty, life is this,
Hmm.
why not take advantage of this? Like he's almost like becoming his best friend to a total stranger, but that's his pitch, and that's why he's so good at it, because he actually he feels like a real person. And it's just, I love those type of movies where it just goes into it, and these long takes of these characters just engulfing into into like what their character is, and like feeling like a real life person. I love shit like that.
Absolutely. It's just like the banter and the
Mm-hmm.
dialogue between
Mm-hmm.
characters I find fascinating.
Right.
I
Right.
love that kind of stuff, especially if it's quick and just they have a nice back and forth. I do
Mm-hmm.
enjoy that. But yeah, they're gonna go into like Mallrats and Dogma and Chasing Amy. So I'm gonna end up going through because I saw parts of like Mallrats. I
Mm-hmm.
remembered Dogma, enjoyed that. But reliving and rewatching those should be fun. Should be fun.
Yeah, he's got.
Absolutely.
I mean, his fan base. Kevin Smith's fan base is really really loyal. I mean, they love his stuff, man. Like I remember when I was working in a financial aid environment, like I was basically doing verification for people's financial aid for college,
Hmm.
and I would listen to his podcast, which is called Smodcast.
Yes.
And I would listen to that thing all the time because it would just him and his best friend Scott Mosier. They would just go on like their podcasts are so funny because it's like scenarios of like, what if someone did this instead of that or whatever.
Hmm.
They riffed off of each other so much that I would be dying because I'd be laughing. And you're in a cubicle environment where people are listening to music and you have headphones on, and it's
Yeah.
like I would just be dying laughing because it's so funny. And it's just, I really enjoyed that. The movies, however, I'm not as a loyal fan. I saw his Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yeah, I know.
Uh, that's on Amazon. I don't know. Not not a huge fan.
Yeah, I like the one thing I do remember watching Kevin Smith do like stand up, basically. Or well, I guess you could say it was like stand up because he would
Hmm.
like have a Q&A, and it's kind of like this podcast that we're doing now because you have one fucking question and we'll go for like 3 hours
Right, right,
because that's what
right,
he did. He'd be like,
right,
let me tell you a fucking story about working with fucking Bruce Willis and shit. And he went off
right.
on that like tangent, and it was
Hmm.
fucking hilarious. But he's a good storyteller, man. I love his shit. I love listening to him.
Yeah, I mean he's really good at that. I mean that's one of the things that's like is a big thing for me, is that him as himself being put into these movies. It's like more of him in these characters that are really like, they're more of him than anything. Like
Yeah.
it's him kind of expressing his feelings and things like that. Like Chasing Amy is like is something specific towards his life as well. So
Mm.
yeah, that's
I'm
that's
looking
cool that
forward
you're
to
good.
it.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is jump into our third segment, which is gaming news with Big Boss. Uh, there's a couple big headline news that's been going on. Assassin's Creed Valhalla had a CGI trailer, reveal trailer of this game. There's also we also got let's see what else. There's Super Mario Maker 2 that
Hmm.
had a major update for their game. There's also The Last of Us Part 2 that had some leaks and some issues of some internal stuff, whether it's an employee or not. I wasn't exactly sure. So uh, why don't you go, if whichever one you want to jump into, we'll just go in and kind of discuss on like what's going on in the world.
All right, sounds good. So yeah, well, I'll just start off to get it out. I saw the Mario Maker update, and like you've mentioned, and I explained how I proposed to now my fiance Katie. with
Yes.
using Mario Maker,
Mm-hmm.
but them using this time to set up a huge update, which is going to be they stated that was going to be the last one, which kind of sucks. But the fact that you're able to now not just make a level, but also interconnect these into a Super Mario World kind of
Right.
sense. So
Right.
yeah, you're making a level, it'll connect, and someone will finish that, and it'll lead to the next one. You kind of
Mm-hmm.
have a map that kind of looks like Super Mario World. Kind of customize it any way that you want, in a sense where the path differs, but essentially you're making 8 different worlds that you could do with a total of 40 courses, which
That's
is
awesome.
fucking nuts. Which, man, like you being a developer, I could see you getting a Switch just for that, and like
Dude, I
coming up
love
with
the
some
idea of that.
cool shit. I would love, and then maybe this will be like a future thing, a like segment of being able to like, because I've seen Giant Bomb do this a lot, where they would get submissions from their fans
Mm-hmm.
to play a level, and they had certain amount like attempts to get through, and then they would give them a free sub to their online website if they didn't complete it. But this would be fun to kind of like see what you would come up with and maybe
Yeah.
play it or show a video. So I don't know. I'm just spitballing, but I think that would be interesting for you to, especially someone that develops game, to kind of make something unique and cool.
Yeah. I mean, I wish, it's one of the things that it's like I wish I was a kid right now
Mm,
because of stuff like this. Because if I
yeah.
had that ability, because there's so many times I would be drawing out my own levels
Yeah.
for Super Mario 3. Like I made so many levels for that, and I made levels for the original Mario, original Super Mario Brothers, and like the second one a little bit, but that was a little bit too weird for me. But I
Hmm.
I love that game. It's just so dramatically different.
And bro, you
Uh,
can do it now.
you could do it now, and that's the thing is that I almost wish that I was a kid now because that's
Time.
exactly what I would love to be able to have. But then again, you would miss out on all those other things on like why these things are so special. Like I can see all that now and be like, man, I wish I had that back in the day. But I'm more of like I would love to like now that I know these kind of like these games is like what I would want to do with something like that because you're limited just by your imagination of like what you can try to break the rules on the actual game of what you can do, and it's so interesting what they're doing.
Yeah, and I'm not like that creative of a person, but just being able to kind of use the tools that are given in the game to you, and just like kind of placing things, just playing around with the physics and how I can use this swing to get through. Or I
Right.
would constantly like my I would always like find a way to make a level, and then seeing if my coworkers, which back home, we
Mm-hmm.
would like get together and play Mario Party and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That they would both play them, and I would try to see if they can get through them or not.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be anything crazy difficult because they don't really. I mean, they play games, but it's nothing like out of the norm.
Mm-hmm.
But it would always be funny to see them try to get through, or even my girlfriend or the fiance to get through certain things and play
Right.
test them, just so I know what's too hard and what's not, what's more
Right.
forgiving and what's not. It's just kind of play testing. But I thought that news was really fucking
It's
cool to
it's
like
so that's so awesome, man. Because I mean, you can do each era of all of these games,
yeah.
and you can create one world where it's all the original Super Mario Brothers. The
Fuck.
second one you can do World 2 is Super Mario 2.
Mm-hmm.
Super Mario 3, Super Mario World. It's like
Yep.
what a crazy idea. Like can you add Yoshi into it from Super Mario 3?
Shit. So I don't think so.
Okay. Cuz I know you
No.
can do him was it Super Mario World? You can
Yeah.
actually do that. You can grab you can like that's a 3D Super Mario 3D.
Yeah.
You can grab him in that.
Yeah,
But I
and this
wonder
one,
can you
I believe it's not the case, because
Okay.
I'm trying to remember now, because I'm mixing that with the remake that they did that was originally on the side scroll that had like 4-player co-op if you wanted
Mhm.
to. Super Mario Wii U at the time
Yeah.
it was called, but because they remade that on Switch. But no, on as far as I know, on Mario Maker you can't add that. But they added ways where there was updates previous where you can play as like Link.
That's oh man, that's so wild,
So
man.
they
That's
had he had different like techniques and mechanics. Obviously, he had his like bow and his sword and stuff like that. So
right.
like the original NES, like not like you know more modern like. But seeing that kind of stuff, dude, it's fucking crazy of the shit like people can come up with, and I can only imagine, especially hopping online and seeing what people create. It's
Yeah, yeah.
nuts.
I mean, I'm definitely that is a must. I mean, I have to have something like that just because it would just I think I would get lost in it. I
Yeah,
think I would spend so much time
probably.
like critiquing every little thing of like, okay, I understand if someone's gonna be doing this, so
Hmm.
I'm gonna not allow them to do this if they're gonna try to exploit the actual game because that's what you have to do. You have to think beyond what you're giving the player because the player is instinctively gonna try to break the rules of what you're doing, and if you
Hmm.
can break the rules, it's like, oh, you spent all this time making this, but oh, you forgot that this little pipe is a little too high and now the
Dude.
character can jump onto it and now they
Yep.
can get above the level and now you're screwed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's again like having your friends like play test it because
Right.
again I think it was one of my first levels I made. I made like a little mini boss, and I
Yeah.
had no clue that because I watched them play it. Uh, the one girl jumped over my boss, didn't even attempt to defeat it, just saw the pipe at the other end and just went down it. I was like, wait, what? Wait, I thought, wait, I didn't even think
Yeah.
to like do something where like you have to kill it before you can move on.
Right.
But just seeing that and then having that play test in front of me, I go back and I'm like, all right, now I know I need to fix that part.
Right.
So it's cool seeing that process when you first try something. And again, developers, same thing. Like when you're making games, like making the thing, having people try to break it or play test it in a way, or
Hmm.
do something you didn't even think was possible, and
Right.
or just something as simple as jumping over and avoiding an enemy, and then
Hmm.
just going down a pipe. I'm like, fuck, you're supposed to
Yeah.
fight it, not just avoid it. What are you doing?
Like I
But
spent all this time and now
yeah,
you
I made
just
all this shit, and you made it easy. Fuck.
yeah.
So it's cool.
Yeah. I think that is definitely gonna be something I'm gonna really spend a lot of time into and
Oh man.
actually once I have it. But yeah, once I do that, I'll post the actual levels on the YouTube channel, and then I'll post them on there, and then anyone that wants to play and they can be able to do that.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that'd be
that
real
would be
fun.
cool. So that's
Uh,
something cool. So next thing, what do I want to get to? A quick when we were talking about like Far Cry
mm-hmm.
podcast on the podcast, I should say. I can't even
Mm.
speak. So Michael Mando,
Mm-hmm.
who is known as Nacho in Better Call Saul, he
Yes.
mentioned he was the antagonist in Far Cry 3.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't realize who it was until I saw something about him off of Twitter. Apparently, he was doing an AMA on Reddit,
Mm-hmm.
and he stated that okay, so some I'll just read it to you. So there's someone mentioned greetings. Do you still get recognized as Voss, or do more people see you as Nacho now? I have to say, after playing Far Cry 3 back in the day, I hoped that I'd see you in more stuff. Very glad to see you get work, and hope you all the best. Is what he stated. This is from Justa Bearda
Mm-hmm.
on Reddit. But his response was, "Thank you so much. Voss is my spirit animal. Having co-created that character is something that'll always be dear to me. I still get recognized as Voss, and I still feel the outpouring of love for that character makes me very happy. Who knows? Dot dot dot. Maybe I will reprise the role very soon."
Hmm.
And like kind of like a emoticon. Thank you for watching, XO.
Huh.
So that I don't know if they're leaning towards remaking Far Cry 3 or having him maybe go back into Far Cry as a different, character or enemy in the game. But I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know. I
that
thought it was
is.
interesting.
I mean, it could be a way for him to be kind of like see if people the response of it. If people are like, yeah, we definitely want to see that, or
Mm-hmm.
the publishers get wind of it. Kind of like what um, Ryan Reynolds did with
Deadpool.
Deadpool. Like
Yeah.
he put it out there, and then people like word of mouth, and people are just like, we need this, and put pressure on the studios to be able to make this movie or give them the money for it. Uh, so it could be that, or they might be working with something. I mean, I would imagine. I I would imagine they could, because I mean Far Cry is limited just on whatever they want to make, and I don't know if they're
Hmm.
going to, I don't know if they're gonna continue with the series.
It seems like to me like they could easily do another one without having any kind of, because again, like Far Cry 3 was more on like an island
Right.
based kind of thing. Far Cry 4 was, I think it was in Argentina. That was the guy with the pink suit, I think, right? I don't know. And then Far Cry
Mm,
5 was a little bit different. I enjoyed Far Cry 5
was that the one in the
a lot.
Himalayas?
Himalayas, maybe that's what it
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, like, I feel like they could just, you know, choose an area and kind of build off of it rather
Right.
than remaking. But then we're seeing like Crisis being remade. So you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like, it is again from our last things that we say are now
Right.
coming to fruition. But
Right.
it's kind of weird to see that. But who knows? I mean, like, I enjoyed Far Cry 3, but I would rather probably see something new as opposed to a remake from it. But I mean, I
I mean that would. I mean he could be able to. I mean I'd imagine that they can be able to do. They can bring that character back in such a way and like have more scenes with this character. But I
yeah,
mean, would
because I
he?
can't remember what happened at the end of 3. Did he die or not? I can't
I'm
remember. But
I'm pretty sure you end up killing him.
yeah, I feel like you did.
Right. But if we're completely wrong on that, our paperwork hasn't gone through completely for us to be professionals.
We're still working on it, but
Where the professional side actually has to go through the mailing system, and right now the mailing system is kind of delayed a little.
look, dude, it's
So
gonna take a while.
it's gonna take a while, but we can say that we're professionals. But when it's officially through the paperwork, that's secondary.
Look, dude, on the
Yeah.
on the paperwork, it's the asterisk. You got a fucking
Oh yeah, yeah,
professional
yeah. Oh, yeah,
asterisk,
that's
and
right.
at the
Right.
bottom you
Yeah.
read the small print. There you go.
Yeah.
That's
That's
what it
that's where you
is.
get them. You get them in the
Where you
small
get 'em.
print.
Yeah, which people haven't gone because again, the mail takes a while.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the actual like that whole idea of like taking the franchise back and like rebooting it and
yeah,
like reimagining the same thing, because I mean you're limited by the actual hardware and you'd have to create the actual engine for the most recent consoles for the PS5 and
mm,
Xbox Series X. So
yeah,
you'd have to change the entire thing. So I don't know what that would do, but I mean if he came back as an actual like maybe he's the main character as someone different, but he's kind of
right,
reminiscent towards Voss,
right,
or maybe he's like the son of Voss or something that you didn't know about, and
right.
he could take on like he goes on revenge to that one kid. Maybe it's that guy that actually does kill him. Maybe
Hmm.
it's a revenge story of him wanting to go and kill that guy or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that
You
would be more of an interesting take, whether it's just using him as the voice actor as another
right,
uh,
right,
person, or just like you said, just have him. Oh, that was his kid, and he was like in revenge. That would be
right,
cool. So I think that would be a better route than just trying to remake that. And again, the how hard it would be from like the PS3.
right.
I mean, they can I guess port a PC um, version of it over, so it's a little bit easier. But like, I don't know. And my
But is he?
feeling
But
was,
but is he a big enough character for something like that, like a whole restructuring or a whole redesign of
is
the
it worth
engine
it?
itself?
I don't know.
Is it exactly like he's a
I don't
memorable character because I mean just how good he was in the way that they motion captioned that character.
know. Hmm.
He was great. I mean he
He
had these
was.
long dialogues. He would be walking around you.
Hmm.
He was good. He was really good in like the way that his acting, and if he's a co-creator of that character Voss, it's like it really shows. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he could be
So
a twin brother or something. He could be something that's the same thing, and it's a twin brother of him. And you could do something like what they did in Mark for Death with Steven Seagal, where there was spoilers. There was two of them in the Jamaican drug lord.
oh, bro,
There's
do you spoil a fucking Steven Seagal movie?
I
Now, dude,
absolutely
I'm turning this off. Or
I
this podcast is
absolutely
over.
did, man. And the fact that I even referenced a Steven Seagal movie should just catapult this podcast into the best
Number one.
best thing ever.
Number one
Because
in
who
my book.
does references for Steven Seagal?
Dude, we ran on some shit that I didn't even believe we're doing.
I
It's
know,
so
I know.
ridiculous. Um,
But yeah, I mean it could be something like that. I mean, I would think that they could be able to use him in some way, but I don't know
mhm.
if you want to bring that same character back.
Agreed. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
All right.
Um,
how about we do the bad one, the bad news last with the Last of Us Part Two that leaked
Okay.
stuff.
All right.
Let's do that one last because that's a little bit more of a shitty kind of situation.
All right.
Um, but
Um.
the one that I actually wanted to talk about was the Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Mhm.
They had their actual reveal trailer come out yesterday, um, which is now today. We're doing the recording on May 1st, and they gave just kind of like a CGI trailer. There was no gameplay or anything like that. Uh, with that video, have you watched the actual reveal trailer?
Yeah, so I think
Okay.
I watched because it was a 4 minute trailer. I think I watched like
Yes.
3 minutes of it, and for whatever reason, I don't know if I got distracted. I didn't finish watching like the last minute of it. But
Okay.
once I saw the director's commentary or some of the developers anyway,
Mm-hmm.
um, commentary that he sent me,
Yeah.
I saw the last part of it, which was a cool reveal for it. But yeah, I I've talked about Assassin's Creed before on this
Mm-hmm.
podcast, and it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those things where again I want to get into it. I think it was whatever the Greek one was. I think it was that Odyssey or whatever. But I
Origin,
or
maybe.
or I think it was the one where I got I mixed up because I thought I was playing one game and I was playing completely the other one.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I don't
Because
know.
I think I mentioned to you because I was like, oh, I played because this is when like Google Stadia first started doing the beta for, and it was
Right.
like the Assassin's Creed, and you could play. I think it was Odyssey, and I was like, oh,
Odyssey.
this
I
is
think that is.
great, great. Yeah, it was Odyssey. There was oh, you can play that, and then I bought the Egyptian one, and I was like, oh, when does wait? This starts differently. Maybe it's because it's it just started differently in the demo. No, I was completely playing two different games. But anyway, so I enjoyed Assassin's Creed Odyssey
Mm-hmm.
more so than I did the previous games, and but it felt overwhelming and it felt a lot. Seeing like the
Mm-hmm.
Viking take on it. I don't know if you've
Mm-hmm.
seen the show Vikings. I think it was on the History Channel, but that
No,
fucking
but I
show,
have
dude.
I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Dude, that fucking show is great. I didn't watch the last season of it. I think because it's like 6 seasons. I think I got to like five. But
Okay.
dude, that fucking show, it reminds me of this game, and I'm fucking stoked for that. Like
Okay.
I was like kind of like, oh, another Assassin's Creed, but then they're doing
Right.
Vikings. I'm like, ooh, maybe I'll like binge Vikings and finish it, and then like by the time this game comes out, I'll like be into it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It looks cool.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the one thing about the Assassin's Creed franchise itself. Like, I've fallen out of these games. I haven't picked it up since Black Flag.
Mm,
So I mean,
mhm.
I'm not huge on it. I didn't finish Black Flag, but yeah, I played it. I got it. The boat sequences, the boat battles were the best things in the game. So but with that, they had a developer commentary breakdown trailer, which is from Ubisoft. They had it officially through there, and they had the creative director. His name is Ashraf Ishmael, and the narrative director Darby McDevitt, and they both, along with their like the host that was from Ubisoft News, they actually broke down the actual trailer itself. A couple scenes here and there, but that actual reveal trailer. So, if you are kind of interested in the things that I grabbed from it is that the story itself takes place a little bit in Norway, and then it's all about them traversing from Norway into England and them having to set up an actual, like, they made a point to actually talk about you having to build a homestead, trading, talking about the actual settlement itself. So it's all about your community, building that up, and your decisions on how to be able to make your community bigger than what it is. So I'd imagine you have to get involved with like traders and stuff like that, and like build like housing, education, stuff like that. So your character, his character, it can either be male or female. The name is Avar. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it sounds like that.
Yeah.
Avar, Avar or something like that.
Hmm.
he or she is a, because you can choose whether to be male or female, uh, a Viking raider. So in that you have, there's raids that you can be able to do. Whereas they show that in the actual trailer where they have the Vikings are on these long boats and they come ashore and then they start getting attacked. Some of those are saying that those are bigger battles that you can be able to be a part of. So you can actually, you have to like fight these big sequences and stuff like that. Other ones are like raids where you can be able to do it very quickly and you can grab resources very quickly and then you can just leave. So the things about the actual game, it looks fun. The Viking era, yeah, you can do a lot. They talked a lot about the brutality of the combat, that you can dual wield the axes. You could
Mm-hmm.
basically dual wield practically everything in the game. Kind of reminds me of Assassin's Creed 3, where your character had a tomahawk.
Tomahawks, yeah.
Yeah, and he could, I think he can dual wield as well. So even the logo of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, if you look at it, it has two tomahawks, or two axes, and they're kind of like, they make the Assassin's Creed little logo. So it kind of reminds me of that. But you know, the thing that's kind of real weird about this is that if you watch this trailer, would you have known that this is an Assassin's Creed game or just a badass CGI Viking type of game? Because the only indicator that it shows you that it's a Assassin's Creed game
At the
is
end.
that, yeah, where he has the his hidden blade,
Yeah.
but it's not hidden anymore. It's on the top of his actual wrist,
Yeah.
where it just comes out, so it's not hidden anymore. So if you were to see this, would you have thought that like? I guess my question is like, do they even need to make this even an Assassin's Creed game?
Mm,
Because it seems like they're just, that little hidden blade is the only thing left that they have that indicates that to be an Assassin's Creed game, because it doesn't look like it anymore. They talked a lot about like there's a lot of RPG
mm-hmm.
elements into it.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's a narrative thread that they kept talking about that you can, I guess maybe your choices do matter.
Mm-hmm.
Um so I don't know, man. I look at it, it looks interesting. There's no gameplay, of course, but I don't know.
We'll see, and it's one of those things where depending on the time period, it grabs
Yeah.
certain people. You know, like
Yeah.
with the Viking thing, I'm like, fuck yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
cool. Because again, I watched the show
Mhm.
Vikings, and of course, there's Odin, there's all this stuff, all the Norse the mythology that they have
Yeah.
with it is fucking fascinating to me. But um, something like Assassin's Creed 3, where
Mhm.
I played a little bit of,
Mhm.
but the main concept of going back in time during the age of Ben Franklin, and you're like a
Mhm.
Native American, that
Yeah.
concept is fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like it it's a double edged sword for me. Like they are trying to do something different in different time periods, and they
Mhm.
have that structure in place where they can do so,
Mhm.
where they can go at any time period and be like, oh yeah, fucking. And I haven't played an extensive portion of any Assassin's Creed game. So the Templars, and there's this constant
Mhm.
futuristic going
Mhm.
back in time and possessing a fucking, an uncle or whoever the fuck during that time, and like
Right.
embodying them, and that
Right.
whole story process. Like, all right, you can kind of insert that into anything, but yeah, like to answer your question about being like looking at this and be like, was this Assassin's Creed game? I'd have been like, it's not, until that moment. And it's funny
Right.
because again, I mentioned I watched the trailer up until like the last minute where they showed that, and I didn't watch it till I think today when you sent me the link to the developer
Mhm.
commentary, where I was like,
Mhm.
oh, there it is. There's that
Yeah.
subtle reference, and I do believe they mentioned something about um, in that video where they say that the main character is working with assassins. That's how he
Yes.
got the
Yes.
blade, which is now on the top as opposed to underneath and
Right.
not as exposed.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know, man. Like it's one of those teases for me. Like again, not the best track record with loving Assassin's Creed games,
Mhm.
but this one kind of, I don't know, tickles my fancy a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's it. It does do that. I mean, they mentioned about the brutal combat. So there's a part where you're fighting in the big battle, there's the king, which is they made a point to talk about.
Yeah.
He's the king of king in England. He's one of the actual kings. He's not the main one, but he his name is Alfred the Great.
Hmm.
So he's the reason why they picked him is because they said that in the actual time period, and this takes place in 873 A.D. is what they said.
Hmm.
Is that Alfred the Great was the one that actually gave the Vikings the most amount of trouble. So they he
Mm.
basically were he was their biggest like combative enemy that they had.
Gotcha.
But in that scene where they're in the battle, you see that one of these bigger guys, they call him the ringleader, which
Oh
is
yeah.
that bigger knight that had like all the armor and stuff like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
So it seemed like they made a point to talk about that you may have like these one characters that are a little bit stronger, and you may have, I think they might have like a lock on mechanic where you just play that one on one. You have to like parry and melee and like dodge out of the way.
That makes sense because
So
it was like that in Odyssey where you can kind of lock
right,
on.
right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it looked like it's more like combat heavy. My real big question is, when I see an Assassin's Creed game, there's a couple elements that I want in those games. I want stealth elements
Hmm.
in it.
Definitely.
I want climbing, and I want to be able to interact with my environment. I
Hmm.
don't care about grabbing, items to like, pick up everything in the map. I want to be engrossed into the actual environment. Can you really see this character climbing up and down buildings and jumping down where he's a Viking, where he's just going to be on the ground and fighting everybody aggressively, like taking everybody on like all at once? I can't see that. Like, are you pulling away the ability to like climb up buildings, jump down and assassinate somebody with your dagger or your hidden blade? I don't know. Like, are you
Yeah.
taking those out? Because
I
it seems like you're not going to do that. It just seems weird, and that's
there
what I thought of.
and to your point, I didn't even think about that,
Yeah.
but that makes sense. Is what made Assassin's Creed is that traversal of being on a building up high and then jumping down and doing all
Right.
that type of stuff. So like, I see what you're saying, and that I didn't even think about.
Yeah.
Um, but again, they have to kind of reinvent themselves. And I think the one thing that kind of got me a little bit more excited, besides seeing the trailer or what have you,
Mm-hmm.
was a tweet from Jason Schreier from formerly Kotaku. I think now he's like going to the Washington Post,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, but he retweeted something from Eurogamer, and I'll just read this real quick because
Mm-hmm.
it made me go, "Fuck yeah!" Um, so it's another adjustment for a series well past its early transition into RPG territory, which started in Origins, Assassin's
Mm-hmm.
Creed Origins, and already able to boast about real mastery of the genre in Odyssey, one which feels like it will fill some of the few remaining blanks in the latter part of the game's formula.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of embarking on a never ending journey to fog the map, Valhalla's narrative is being built around your settlement and through it. So that aspect kind of made me feel a little bit better because the next quote is, "It's your own Viking village you'll see
Mm-hmm.
prosper and grow,
Mm-hmm.
and which your clan mates will live in."
Mm-hmm.
On a video call, there was stated, "It's at the center of our quests and the center of the decisions you make. We want the players to see the consequences of their actions.
Hmm.
Big story arcs will begin and end here, an impact of your decisions rippling through the growing community. You'll see the effects of alliances, such as weddings, to forge relationships between clans, and the consequences of harsh choices you have to face.
Hmm.
It's also where you'll see some of the game's romances play out if you choose to indulge in those."
Okay.
Seeing that, it seemed more of like, okay, you're building your own kind of like civilization, your own
Mm-hmm.
kind of area, and it always
Right.
kind of like anything that you do affects your people that you live with, or the people that are, you know, that are kind of working with you and kind of
Right.
listening to you, and I'm assuming you're the leader of this entire group.
Right.
So I thought
I
that tweet kind of made
Yeah.
me go, all right, I'm down.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can see what they're doing. But I'll tell you this. If you have sequences where you're eavesdropping, I'm out. I don't
Oh,
care. I
yeah,
don't care. Like,
yeah,
you could do so much with these games. You can go to any era, but if you're still giving me eavesdropping
dude,
quests,
yeah,
forget it. I'm out. Like, you can't create another way to be able to like make it more interesting for me to do one thing or another. If I'm fetch questing stuff, like you can do a limited amount, but it has to
mm-hmm,
mean something. That's fine. But if
yeah.
I'm eavesdropping, forget it. I'm out.
Dude,
Like that's
sitting on a bench and like fucking hearing
forget it.
some shit.
Forget
Oh
it. This
god.
this these character this the way that this character looks and the way that he feels, it doesn't seem like he's gonna be subtle. It doesn't seem like he's gonna be
No.
stealthily going through the crowds or anything like that. He's just going to push everyone around aside and he's gonna take down the biggest person.
Yeah,
Like
you're right.
he's not gonna want to like climb up stuff. He just seems too big. I guess that's what I'm seeing. He's a brute. He's like a
Brute guy. Yeah.
tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Well,
he's more of a like a tank, and like he's gonna take down everybody.
so what I'm hoping is, and this is again my vision, and whether
Mm-hmm.
this comes true or not,
Mm-hmm.
is I feel like the stealth elements will come in different forms.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the stealth elements will come through with, okay, you're raiding a village, you're on a boat, it's dark,
Mm-hmm.
you're getting out, and you're slaughtering people, but you have to do it in a way with not being able to, alert people that are standing watch just in case something
Right.
happens. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
picture
Right.
him on a boat, him trying
Right.
to get to this town, this village, or what have you,
Right.
but doing it stealth manner. Of course, you're going to be able to go in, fuck around and just kill everything and not give a fuck about being stealthy.
Right.
But I'm hoping that instead of being like, all right, I can go through this crowd and just like kill someone real quick
Mm-hmm.
and no one notice and dip out, maybe they're doing it in a way where you could still do it, but in a different game mechanic. I hope, but
I mean, the only thing I can think of, and this is just based off the trailer,
yeah.
is at the very end when he sees, like, they talk about their god Odin, which is
Mhm.
the one that they use to sacrifice before going into battle. Like
Yeah.
it would give them, they would have some sort of
Favor.
like an offer, like some sort of offer in a give and take type of thing. You sacrifice and you'd ask for something. You'd ask for an offer or something.
Mhm.
So in the trailer, they actually show that some sort of Odin character or something like is there on the battlefield. But there's a scene right after that is when the camera turns around. You see the other characters behind you, your other companions. It almost gave me a Brotherhood flashback because I thought while you were saying that, I was like, well, what if your character is not stealthily? What if your other companions are stealthily? Let's say you command them to be able to take down the archers or the people on the towers. Like, you know how like in Brotherhood they would just come out of the woodwork. They would come out of
Yeah.
the bushes. They would come out from the rooftops. Like
Mhm.
maybe you can do that where you're summoning your other companions to do those things, and you are the brute force. You are the tank that just drives this whole thing through. So
Mhm.
you don't have to be stealthy at all because your character it doesn't look like it makes sense to do that. Your character's not skinny. He's big. He's too massive, and if people were to see him in a crowd, they would instinctively move out of the way.
Yeah.
He's that type of character that like has blood all over him and doesn't care what you think.
Now and to my point again, going along with if they kind of are replicating a little bit or taking some
Hmm.
parts of the show, that's what they did. So they weren't
Okay.
just like on a boat going, fuck yeah, let's murder these
Yeah.
motherfuckers and raid this village. It was like, okay, these guys are smart. So what we're gonna do is go in the cover of darkness. And we're gonna do
Hmm.
this and that. But and then there was times, and this trailer reminded me of the one time they get in the show they get to England and they deal with this, king, and they in order to get to the castle, like it's not easy. Like you can't just go there. and
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, fucking kill every. You can get to the village and just kill people, which they did. But they backtracked to where their boats are for a few days, and then they had some communication with the king, and they went back and forth on what they want and what they can get away with,
Mm-hmm.
and the drawbridge is up, like you can't get in there, and
Mm-hmm.
there are times where the Vikings who are smart enough create a plan and be like, all right, so we'll trick them, so we'll pretend we're listening to them, but when they're open, we'll have these ladders and climb through and try to get over their walls, or we'll try to like play kind of like mind games and be like, oh well, if you just give us gold and we'll just dip out. But like
Right.
there's those types of things where I'm hoping that is in place in this new game,
Hmm.
where again it gives different elements, like you stated, this dude's a brute. There's no fucking being stealthy in the way that we're used
Right.
to with Assassin's Creed games, but there are other elements. Again, this is all just based off of conjecture of the show, of
Mm-hmm.
them like moving forward and conquering certain things, where they do end up trying to play mind games. They do try to be stealthy. They try to figure out ways that are out of the box to try to conquer what they need to, and
Right.
beat their opposers and opponents. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd imagine that they would have to do something like that, and I'm just kind of just thinking like how that would work, and if they're talking about the story, and let's take the idea that there's a narrative like tree branch dialogue that kind of ventures off, and your decisions do matter because obviously in that tweet they make a point to say that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a step back. There's a game that came out several years ago called Dishonored. That
Oh, buddy. Oh,
okay.
buddy.
Okay, so what happens in that game is that there's a lot of big stealth mechanics within that game, but
Yes.
the cool thing about it is that the story is like you need to eliminate this one person. You
Mm-hmm.
can choose to go right in there and just kill the person, or you can get information within the town
Yeah.
and you can be able to like know information about the actual enemy, or like there's a sewage passage that you can get through or
Yeah.
something like that. Whether you find it or not, you can explore that way. You can decide on how you want to do those things.
Yeah.
If they incorporate that where there's information that you can get into the actual, like if you're going to try to take down one of these kings or whatever, if they add elements into it, that's smart because that makes you use the environment.
That's a
But
good
what,
point. That's a very good point, because I didn't even think about Dishonored, and I remember playing that, and that was the coolest part: is
yeah,
approach the situation
mm-hmm,
in whatever manner you deem fit. So if you
yes,
feel like you want, I was again Metal Gear fan number one over here.
mm-hmm,
Loved being stealthy no matter what fucking game it was. I never went in there like trying to fucking just wreck shop. I would always go in there
right,
subtly, assassinate quietly,
mm-hmm,
choose like the sewer route if I needed to. Like
right,
if they do that, like you said, and I'm again very hopeful and optimistic.
mm-hmm,
I'm not a
mm-hmm,
huge Assassin's Creed fan, but I will say if they use those type of elements in a smart way, I think it
yeah,
can work.
it could.
Could,
It could
we'll
work,
see.
and you could just drop out the whole Assassin's Creed thing,
You
like
could, you
drop the
could
whole thing. Just drop the whole thing. I
make
don't
a
need to be.
different spin or something to a
Yeah,
different franchise. Make it all like I don't know, but
or you're just you play that you're in that world and you're playing that character. You don't have to be tied into the real world of like this corporation that's like getting people to LinkedIn and whatever. You take all that away. Like
it,
in Black Flag, you actually played as a tester, a game. You're a part of an actual person that was making a game, and you would just kind of jack into this actual game and actually play it. So take all that away, like that the whole what is it, Ambius or Anubis or what's the
and
Ambius or
yeah,
something like that? I
yeah,
don't know.
something like that.
Whatever,
Whatever bullshit they came up with.
whatever, Animus,
Animus.
whatever.
There you go.
uh, Either way, take that out, make it an actual like a time a period piece, and just leave it at that,
You know,
because you have an idea that you could work.
you know
Take those elements out.
what? Like, and I just thought of this as you were talking about this.
Hmm.
You know why they won't? and just make it a separate franchise.
because it's recognizable.
Yes. They see
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed as a name, and people see that, oh,
Right.
they made another one. Let me grab that. I like the last 15 or whatever the fuck it was. They'll see that and see, oh, they did a Vikings one? Fuck yeah,
Right.
let's buy. It's the same
Right.
shit with anything. You see the
Right.
recognizable name, it doesn't. You see
Right.
oh, there's a new Call of Duty? Let me fucking pick that up. It's like
Right.
one of those impulse, even though it's not really impulse purchases when they're like $60+. But for people that like, oh, I love Call of Duty. Here's a new one. Sure, I'm going to buy that. Oh, here's a new
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed. Let me buy. That's why they didn't do it. I
Yeah. I
guarantee
mean,
that's the fucking reason why.
yeah, but that's also the reason why they're in so much of an actual problem of making these
Repeating,
games.
yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
they're kind of in their own. They've kind of put themselves in a bind already because people, whether you like the other Assassin's Creeds, whether you like them, I'm sure they're enjoyable to some.
Mhm.
There's an audience for everybody.
Yeah.
We clearly just stated from Animal Crossing, but
Right?
you could do there's an audience for everything. But
Yeah.
my point is that if you're gonna take this and like make it, it's gonna be one of they made a point to say that it's a flagship release on the Xbox Series X
Oh, yeah.
and also the PS5. Now they also said that it's coming out holiday in 2020
Yep.
for PS4 and also Xbox One. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that means that those are gonna, because Black Flag did the same thing from what I recall. They did
Call of Duty
uh
did it too.
yeah, they did one version, and then when the new consoles came out, they came out with another version, so they double dipped.
Yep.
So I think they're gonna do that for this one, but I don't know if the new console is gonna be out this summer or out this holiday as well. So I don't know. I don't know that I don't know the
I,
console.
as far as I saw from like tweets from Phil Spencer or
Mhm.
major like they have stated that the production of the consoles aren't affected by COVID or anything like that. So my
Okay.
assumption is that there will be new consoles this fall. I will be purchasing a PS5. The
Okay.
one thing that I will say is because they said holiday and they said fall
Mhm.
with this. I
Mhm.
do remember seeing, I think it was Major Nelson that tried to explain something. It basically is being able to purchase one version of the game and getting both. Kind of how
Mm.
Sony did it, right? So Sony had it where you could just, let's say I bought a PS4 game and then I got the PS Vita version for free.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
So I forget what the term that they're using for their version of that, but they stated for Assassin's Creed that if you buy a Series X version of Assassin's Creed, you're going to get an Xbox One version automatically with it, which is cool.
But not the other way around.
That I don't know.
That's
I'm assuming it's
only
the higher end version.
exactly.
And then getting that,
You spend the money for that, we'll give you another.
I would assume
That's
so. Yeah.
hey, that's great. I mean, you can give it to somebody else, and if you're getting a copy, if it's a digital copy, more than likely, you can be able to do that and just maybe gift it to somebody. That'd be cool if you could do that.
Which is cool. But
yeah, I
going
mean,
along the lines of the launches of the consoles, we don't know again that much. We'll probably talk about and mention Microsoft's coming out with speaking about their games from not first party studios, but on May 7th they're going to announce some stuff. But and we'll probably talk about that on another podcast. But the fact that there was some news about the PS5 being limited in supply for launch in the fall.
Yeah.
People have speculated whether this is true or not. I don't know. Price wise, are they limiting their supply because they feel like they're not going to sell as much because the price of the console is too much?
Yeah, that could definitely make a supply and demand. It's an unfortunate thing, but that might, I wouldn't be surprised.
To me, my picture is I don't think they can do 500. I mean, I feel like they need to learn from their PS3 days where it was like $500 and $600 from the gate to and having two jobs because you're fucking crazy.
Right.
And then you go to the fucking just abysmal E3 showing of the Xbox 360 with
Mm-hmm.
Connect and sports. Everyone can look that up, which was fucking ridiculous.
Right, I
But
remember that.
and then starting out at $5, and the PS4 being at
Yep.
$400, and like them just shooting themselves in the foot. I don't know. I feel like my guess is, and no, it's not a round number,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like it can't be 5. I feel like it almost can't be 4. But maybe it's like 450 or 480. Maybe like a 480 based on it being a terabyte hard drive or SSD. It's not a hard drive anymore. I feel like they said that they stated that it was going to be a solid state drive, but
Okay.
maybe a 1 terabyte SSD, make it like not quite 500, but a
Mm-hmm.
good amount where you can kind of get away. I don't know, but what are your thoughts on like pricing? Or what do you think if you were to be like, oh, I saw a PS5 and Xbox, like, what do you think the nice pricing threshold would be?
I think it's going to be anywhere from 350 to 400. Um, but that's
You don't
also
think it'll go past that?
well, this is what I was going to say is like I feel that they're going to expand on the one version, and there's going to be an ultimate super deluxe hyper edition that's 500 that they're going to experiment with because why not? Instead of giving you 1 terabyte, this one they can give you 2.
Yeah.
You know, like clearly that you could put more space in these actual consoles than 500 that we're dealing
Yeah.
with right now.
Dude, I have
So
2 terabytes in my PS4 right now.
yeah, and that's probably not even enough for you as
No,
well.
no,
Exactly. So
not.
like I'm dealing with 500 because I don't have. I'm a very simple type of person. I am not going to spend the actual time and get the hard drive, put it in
Mm-hmm.
there. I'm not going to bore you about that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just going to be like, I'll deal with it. I'll take the games out, uninstall them, whatever. No big
Mm-hmm.
deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're going to make 2 different versions of it. I think they're going to make one that's going to be affordable. That's going to be the standard, and just like they did with the Pro for the
Yeah.
PS4,
Yeah.
I think they're going to make a Pro version of those, and I think that's always going to be the case because we said it before. Cell phones have made it a point to like different versions
Mm-hmm.
of the actual same product to make one their flagship, and then there's another one, something else.
So it really depends, right? Because we've seen some sort of this process work themselves out over time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll
Mm-hmm.
picture this, right? And I feel like what you said could go that route, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it won't, only because it's also affecting certain people. So I'll start out with this. So the Xbox 360, very popular. I remember
Mm-hmm.
working years and years ago
Mm-hmm.
during my Best Buy days, and then
Oh,
having
geez.
yeah,
I'm so sorry for you.
yeah, trust me, I worked there for almost like 5 years, and like going through my fucking early 20s dealing with shit like that was nuts. But
Jeez.
yeah, all of my life I worked retail, probably over fucking 15 years. Um, but that's not true. That would be like 13 years because I'm like 31 now. So anyway, don't
You're
worry
making
about
yourself
that.
like you're
I'm not
making
even
yourself like
fucking.
45.
I'm older now. Like somehow, like, oh, I feel old. Fuck. But I remember them coming out the 360 arcade, where the hard drive space or lack thereof was like
Yeah.
20 gigabytes. I'm like, what the fuck? Or like, I forget what it was. I don't know if it was 20 or not.
It was something.
I
Yeah, it was a
feel like
small. It
it
was.
was small. It was like 4 gigs. I think it was 4 gigabytes because like the regular hard drive for 360 started out at like 20 or some shit. It was like
Yeah.
4, and they sold it for $200 instead of like $300. And it was like, okay, so I'll get that because that's cheaper and that's cool and that's like a holiday like instant like
Right.
grab. So you buy that first, but then like parents slowly realize their fucking kids are gonna buy games and demos and this and that
Mm-hmm.
added up, and a goddamn demo could be 2 gigs. Like,
Right.
what can you do on that? They target it more towards casual people, and
Right.
that's also segmenting the audience in that sense. Same way
Right.
they segmented the audience of like bundling Connect or
Right.
being like fucking PS3, like you'll have 2 jobs, but like the problem is segmenting though. You don't want someone not to have a Connect so you include it and bundle it. But then you
Right.
overprice your console and nobody buys it. And they buy the competition because it's $100 cheaper. So it's like it's a balance of that, of being able to figure out the best way. Now, I will tell you, and this was, I think, started years ago by Microsoft,
Mm-hmm.
where, like you said about cell phones, subscription based thing. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
pay us $10, $15 a month. You have an Xbox One over a 2 year period, and you have it, and you just continuously pay us over two
Right.
years, and it adds up to like $400 or whatever the fuck it is.
Right.
That thought process is fucking smart, and I feel like they're going to position that in a way. If their console is expensive in a sense, they're like, oh, you can still get our system. It's $15 a month.
Right.
Like, who wouldn't be like, oh, well, I don't have to buy the whole thing
Right.
right now, especially depending on how the fucking economy is after all this bullshit into the fall.
Right. Right.
What's more fucking just applicable to you in your life? $15 a month or dropping 480 on a PS5?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so
Right.
where do we go? But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't.
Everything's out there.
I think. Okay, they could see it this way. You could have it as just one console for each one,
Mm-hmm.
and they have their standard ones. But on the other hand, they can also make another edition that's limited.
They could.
That's only going to come out, and it's going to be open for a window that it's going to
Hardcore
be
people.
available for. Exactly. So they
Mhm.
can add that extra money towards that and just add up more. Whatever. It's a pro version. It runs
Mhm.
8K. Whatever. It gives with another controller, and you're paying $500 for it. And
Right.
it's a limited window that you have to buy it, and it's only by pre-orders. There are people that are going to buy it because there's people that will spend the money for it because there's something specific that they're looking for
Yes,
one of these games that are coming out. So there's going to be diehard
there will
fans that are
be,
going to get that.
and I'm not
So that
denying that. But at the same
right,
time, you're also segmenting your audience buying a game. If I go and get
right,
Cyberpunk and I could play it hardcore 8K, or I buy my regular console and it's only
hmm
4K,
hmm
that's fucked up. Then you're having developers
right,
try to like develop in two different audiences, which I don't think they will do because of the past mistakes. What I do see happening is
yeah,
more, yes, look at what we see, the refresh for consoles, right? You'll see a console come out, and 2 or 3 years later, they'll be like, oh, there's a slim version or a pro version in our sense in the last
yeah,
5 years. So you have a PS4 and a PS4 Pro. Like,
yeah. I mean, you could,
I
you
don't
could.
know.
I think it could just be standard as a one. But in the unique situation that everyone's in right now,
Mhm.
I think they could be able to do that and get away with it because right now people are, this is kind of like the way the world is right now. Like everyone's kind of having to be aware of this pandemic that's continuously growing, and it's just it's harder and harder for people to want to just be out. So this is going to be the normal for until I would imagine until sometime next year that there'll be
Yeah,
some sort of like treatment or vaccination for this. I would imagine so.
like 18
Hopefully
months
that
to a
would be
year. Yeah.
right. So it'd be something like that. So I think they could get away with it where you could be able to have a $500 cost because I'm sure they're losing money because of the fact that they may not be able to make other games because of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So you could get away with it where you can have a $500 version that's a limited one that's going to come out and then that's it. It's pre-orders exclusive through Microsoft or Sony, whatever, and they mail it to you or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
think they could get away with it right now in this situation
I'd be down with
because
it. I mean, honestly, personally, if it was me, I'm like, I'm fucking getting that day one. I don't care.
right if
But
you
that's
if you
me.
want to if you want to get that and you have the ability to spend the money for it, then of course you would. But then again, it also makes a point of like, hey, they'll get backlash on it because people are gonna be like, hey, I can't afford that,
Mm-hmm.
and right now I have to pick and choose what I can be able to buy because my resources are minimum because everyone's kind of in limbo right now. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know what's really happening and what's gonna happen with everything. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
is it gonna be stable? Is it gonna be weird? You don't know. So I think it could work, but then again, I could see the backlash. So I would imagine a safe cost would be 400
I
or
think so as well.
400, or they could do 450.
Because
I'm just saying.
my thing again is
Give me two
they're
controllers. Give me two controllers. Don't give me one.
agreed. They should have done that
Stupid,
shit since
stupid
the
thing.
fucking Sega Genesis and did they do it on any? I can't remember. But I know,
Super Nintendo did. They gave you two. They
okay,
gave you both.
good. Fucking God bless Nintendo and Reggie Fils-Aimé, which he's not a part of Nintendo. Well, crying. But the you bring up a good point. Is like
Hmm.
for the person that's not hardcore,
Yeah.
the consoles come out, right? They're backwards compatible. They've been saying that for years. We know Microsoft is. Now Sony's like, yeah, it's gonna be fucking. You're gonna be able to play PS4 games. So I'm
Hmm.
like, I mean, I'm gonna buy the PS5 regardless. But if someone's like, oh well, it plays PS4, I have a bunch of PS4 games that I haven't gotten to yet, which yeah, me included.
Right.
Um, do I go the new console? Why? Like, what's the incentive? Yeah,
Right.
there's the Call of Duties, there's the Assassin's Creed, but guess what? They're coming out on both consoles.
Right.
So what is the gimmick? What is the incentive to purchase these new consoles? Which
8K.
which who has that fucking monitor? Who has that fucking you know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, and
Yeah.
what are you doing? What are you doing for me, bro? Like
I.
what are you giving it to me? But
Yeah.
again, this is me. I'm gonna
Right.
buy no matter what. I'm gonna buy
Right.
a PS5 and then play PS4 games on it because I haven't
Right.
finished the fucking Witcher. So
Right.
god damn it. But
That's
you
too
know what
big
I'm
of a
saying.
game, anyways.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, that's
I.
crazy.
I think. I think it could. I honestly, I think it could. It could work as far as in making two versions of it.
Possible,
I
dude.
think. I think, however, the way that the economy is, I'd imagine that they would be just like, hey, you know what? Let's not gouge people.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try to be fair a little, and let's
Mm-hmm.
try to maybe do it on the back end where you can do that monthly subscriptions where
Yeah.
they can make it up and stuff like that. But
If they do the
it's
subscription based, it would be smart, just like Microsoft
exactly
said. That also maybe take a hit.
right,
I don't know because they did that with PS3. They took a
right,
hit and then made money on the back end,
right,
and then eventually made more money than the
right.
360 did. But I don't know. Do you have
I
time?
don't,
Are you gonna
I
bet on
don't,
that? Who
I don't
knows?
know. I think that what they're doing with these next games, whatever they're going to be doing, the one thing that they're kind of consistently talking about is load time. I
Mm-hmm.
can give two shits about that.
I
I
don't really
don't
care.
care. Like it's gonna happen no matter what. And they even mentioned that in the developers commentary
Yes.
breakdown of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. They mentioned that they're like, yeah, the load times are gonna be a little bit more. We can make the games a little bit more accessible for everybody. All this and that. It seems like they're making a point to say that. If that's the main thing that they're talking about, I don't even give a shit.
Dude, that's
Like
all fine and dandy, but dude, we both lived through the fucking dark ages. You know what I mean? Like you had
Mhm.
fucking a few lives and you had to get through the entire fucking game. That
Yep.
we don't give a shit about load times. If it takes
No.
15 seconds or it takes 2 seconds, we're
Mhm.
gonna wait because we're used to it. Now, the next generation's oh, I want instantaneous gratification, so I needed to load in 2 seconds.
Right.
Dude, fucking relax. Like
Yeah.
it's not that big of a jump for me to be. What happened, dude? What happened between like what was it, the PS2 era, and then jumping to like PS3? You see the fucking jump and graphics and fucking
Mhm.
sound and this and that.
Yeah.
And over time now, it's like there's subtle differences. There's subtle things you can do. Yeah, developers will sit there and be like, "Oh, load times," or "Hey, we can do this thing with physics," and "Oh, the frame rate is great." And of
Mhm.
course, everything got better over time, but like
Right.
subtly, there's no jump anymore. And
Yeah.
I mean, Phil Spencer stated that with his new gimmick of responsiveness, with I forget the fucking term he used, but it's the responsiveness of your control with the game is faster and it
Hmm.
feels better and it's going to be more of a next generational gap like it was back then, whereas
Hmm.
like a PS2 and a PS3 era, which he didn't state that portion, but he stated like it was going to be like the next big thing, and I'm like, how? But I
Okay.
guess we'll see. when things come out. But
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
part would kind of intrigue me in a little bit. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, how good can it get? We're at a
Yeah.
fucking threshold where, Jesus, we got fucking Metal Gear Solid 5. We got
Mm-hmm.
all this good shit.
Yeah.
We hit a fucking threshold. I don't know. We'll see.
Are you segueing yourself into a Kojima Corner
I
segment now?
I don't know. Maybe. I do have some things on that, and then maybe we'll end it on Last of Us because I know we're in the structure now.
Well, let's talk about that.
Okay.
So, The Last of Us Part 2 got delayed.
Yes.
They say at that point, Neil Druckmann tweeted out saying that it's, delayed due to what's happening, and they don't know when it's going to happen,
Yeah.
when it's going to have
When
an actual release.
right.
So now I don't know when this happened, but somehow there is some leaked footage or images
Mhm.
of the actual game because of some sort of internal employee or something like that. Is that kind of what happened?
So what ended up happening? So they pushed the date. So it ended up. I think it originally was supposed to be this month in May, um, and then got moved to June 19th specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's now moving forward where Last of Us is going to release, which I feel like I feel like Last of Us, the original
Mm-hmm.
game, came out after E3 in June, but I
Mm-hmm.
digress. I want to say it came out around the same time now, so that's kind of fucking peculiar that they're both coming out again. A lot of years, uh, you know, between the two, but they're coming out in the same month. It was kind of peculiar. But anyway, so they pushed the release. They punted it. Everyone apologized. Blah blah blah. Neil Druckmann
Mm-hmm.
came out and said sorry. Blah blah blah.
Right.
But we find out today because everyone was speculating. Jason Schreier, people from Kotaku, a bunch of people from Reddit were like
Mm-hmm.
snapping, whatever. There's leaked footage that came out,
Yeah.
and people were assuming because of crunch or developers getting upset that they got possibly there's rumors of people getting laid off, which wasn't the case because of the COVID and all that stuff popping up. But that they stated that it was a Naughty Dog employee that was
Hmm.
fed up that decided to leak everything. So that was the original story.
Wow.
People were like, "Oh fuck, dude, it must suck working at Naughty Dog. Like,
Right.
their
Right.
crunch is terrible. Maybe like that's what it is." But
Right.
like everyone was pissed off because it's like, dude, you're ruining for everybody else that is in the development process for this game, and you're just
Right.
gonna let it out. That's
Right.
fucked up.
Right.
So people started speculating, da da da, and come to find out today, Sony found out who they were, and they weren't even
Mm-hmm.
Naughty Dog employees. They were contractors that
Hmm.
were hired on behalf of Sony, who again, Sony had no say whether these people got fired, laid off, paid.
Right.
Doesn't matter. That's nothing to do with them. They hired
Right.
these people, a third party company, to do a job. Whether it was, I think it might have been playtesting the game,
Mm-hmm.
and the company that hired um, that were in charge of these contractors, I guess they didn't pay them well, or something happened in their contractual obligation, and they decided to be like, "Fuck you, I'm not getting paid, so I'm gonna leak some footage."
Damn.
And again, I'm avoiding spoilers because I didn't want to have the game spoiled for myself.
Yeah, I heard about that, and I kind of just stayed away from it. But when I was doing a little bit of research for this, I saw like an image on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's what it is that they're talking about. And I'll just say this:
Mm-hmm.
that leaks and stuff like that is it's terrible. Some things are just unavoidable.
Yeah.
However, in The Last of Us Part 2, just that series itself, you understand that these characters are either going to stay or they're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like The Walking Dead. These characters are they're so strong and their will to keep going takes its toll. So I don't know if they're kind of alluding to the fact that somebody may die. I don't know if that image is what I'm seeing, what I saw on Twitter, and it's on Neil Druckmann's like Twitter feed. If it's not on his feed, but if you type in Neil Druckmann in Twitter and The Last of Us Part 2, you'll see what I'm talking about if you want to look through it and see it.
Yeah.
Some people don't care, but in that case, that's the only thing that's my saving grace, is that if that's what I saw is a problem, and that's the thing,
People expect
I
it.
I don't. I'm not crazy upset about it, because I already knew going into it that there's going to be something. There's going to be something that's going to bring these characters to an end, or something's going to happen, because even Joel, in the way that it ends in the
Mm-hmm.
first one, you don't know what Ellie's going to do
Mm-hmm.
if she finds out the truth.
Right.
So that's where I'm kind of like, I already put that in my head from when the game came out, at the end of it when I finished it. So
I
if
don't,
that's the case.
I don't know. And again, that could be the case. I saw some different things where,
Hmm.
again, I didn't want to get into like spoilers or anything like that, but I did see some kind of mention of some religious cult, Christianity
Okay.
specifically, that
Okay.
has to do with the game. Now,
Okay.
again, whether that's true or not, no fucking clue. But just seeing like
Okay.
tidbits of that type of thing where people were talking, not necessarily, again, like you mentioned that, I had no idea that that was a thing. Which, again,
Right.
when you're explaining it, that's an expectation I have just based off playing the original game.
Right.
But this, people being pissed off, whether it's being like, oh, I don't know if it's religious people that are upset the fact that it's Christians that are possibly doing culty things, or like, I don't know what the controversy is. I have no idea.
Wow.
But from what I read on
Yeah.
tidbits of that, and again, not doing any spoilers, that's what I thought, and maybe that's where the upset is. I have no idea. All I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to is this fucking game, and I'm ready to play
Yeah.
it. That's what I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to.
That's. I mean, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is that that's what I'm looking forward to the most. Is I can see these things, and there are always problems. There's always games that come out early. When they do those street releases, they come
Mm-hmm.
out early, and people pick them up before they're supposed to be
Yep.
released.
Yep.
But then there's also leaked stuff that comes out, disgruntled employees, what have you. So, I mean, you're dealing with so many people, and there's so many variables that happen. And in this situation, because of everybody being limited and resources are limited as well,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, stuff like this, I mean, it's kind of a little scary, because it takes so long for them to make this game, and for something like that to happen,
Stocks,
it's
dude.
like, it's
Stocks.
just like, man, it's like, God, like, you just, I guess, I mean, just like anything, it's a job.
Yeah.
Some people aren't married to it because it's just a job, and
Mm.
you can disconnect yourself away from it because you're just enjoying what people spent their time, their effort into, their life's blood into this game, and you can appreciate it. But then when you're also on the back end, when you're an employee working for this and just doing it because it's a job and you're not married to it, it's like, yeah, you don't care. Like, you're not going to care if you're going to spoil anything. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just a job to you, and it's
Especially if you're a contractor too. Like if you're
I
like
know
in
that's
this just a
unfortunate.
play test, and then
Yeah,
you're not even a part of
yeah,
the company, because
right,
I'm guessing if it was somebody that was hired at Naughty Dog, there's no goddamn
right.
way. There's no fucking way that they would
Yeah,
sit
yeah.
there and leak something just to be a dick.
Well,
And
it's all controlled too. There's no
yeah,
way you could. You
well,
could.
and
I
then
mean, you
it.
could.
I mean, it if
It
and
happens.
it's harder
Right.
now because you're working from home, so it's like it's easier
Right.
for you to leak something. But like, I don't see that from like the core team. There's no way. There's no fucking
No,
way.
I wouldn't imagine so. But if that is the case, and I didn't see that part where it's some sort of specific element to it that people are getting upset about.
Mm.
Are we losing sight of the fact that they released information about the actual game that could spoil the ending or some part of the actual story? Are they losing that part, or are they just, does it seem like people are focused on whatever it is, this
I
element to it?
I think there's something big that got spoiled.
Oh,
That
okay.
because there was another thing that, again, don't know because I wanted to avoid any kind of spoilers. But
Right. Right.
Colin Moriarty, who again
Mm-hmm.
everyone knows, I'm sure, from IGN, from Kind of
Mm-hmm.
Funny, and now doing his own thing, um, having his own podcast, Sacred Symbols, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I saw because I've subscribed to him on Patreon,
Mm-hmm.
and he stated that he has a ton of people that pay money to hear his content, and
Mm-hmm.
there was like two instances of people spoiling The Last of Us, and he banned them. And it
Wow.
wasn't like just once and that's it. He spoke to them, was like, dude, deleted their comment, and then they did it again. And it was like, all right, now you're fucking trying to spoil it for everybody else.
Jeez.
And that's terrible. Like, why would you
Yeah.
even do that? Like, what is your purpose?
Right.
What the
Right.
fuck are you doing that you're gonna try to ruin one of like the biggest games that are anticipated by all these people? And
Right.
like,
Right.
what the fuck is
Right.
your purpose? You're just being an
Yeah.
asshole. There's no reason for you to even do that. Like,
Right.
go fuck off. Like,
Right.
that kind of shit pisses me off, especially if like, oh, I know something first. Is that what the
Right.
purpose was?
Right.
I knew news before anybody else, so I'm going to share it with everybody. Fuck off.
Sure.
Just go fuck
Sure.
yourself.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of shit pisses me off.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate too, because if you're following something, you can easily have that spoiled and like have information. But then again, is that anything different than people putting clickbait for other things that happen in the movies, or like a game that you haven't even finished yet, and it spoils because there's clickbait articles and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's like these are elements that are just unfortunate, and this situation, because of what it was an actual contractor that was working on it
Mm-hmm.
and actually leaked this information. That's vital information. So I mean, I'm not to say that this is I'm not trying to like paint a better picture on this and like make it nicer, but it's a it's it's an unfortunate thing. But I'm fortunate enough to not be so connected into like knowing everything, that I'm not plugged into like knowing all these like information about this game, and I don't grab everything about it and then consume it, because I want to be surprised. I want to see what it is that they were making, and I want to see it with fresh eyes instead of knowing everything.
Yeah,
But that's just me.
and that it to me it depends. It depends on the individual, but it also
Hmm.
depends on how hardcore you are. So
Right.
it brings me back to like Metal Gear Solid. Like when Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater came out, I fucking tried to absorb any kind of incremental information that I could get to fucking understand this game and where it would head.
Yeah.
But there's people like that. Some people that just want to do fresh eyes, which is cool too. But imagine the fucking ultimate. And again, we've talked about movies, and you're not into like superhero movies that much.
Well, we
But
talked about Superman, I think, and he's just not a. He's just someone that is invincible.
right,
I want vulnerability.
yeah.
I like Spider Man.
But
He's a kid.
I agree too. Batman,
Yeah.
Spider Man's all my thing. But
Mm-hmm.
my point is with that. Imagine if
Mm-hmm.
before, let's say, Avengers Endgame came out, and someone
Mm-hmm.
spoiled like the last whatever 20 minutes or whatever the fuck.
Right.
After
Right.
10 years of watching all these movies,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
true.
you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
that fucking moment
Mm-hmm.
that you will never be able to get back, because
Mm-hmm.
some
Mm-hmm.
fucktard online was like, I fucking saw it and I want to share it with everyone because I
Yeah.
want. Come on, dude. Are you
Yeah.
fucking kidding me? These people worked so fucking hard over years,
Yeah.
making this game / movie or whatever
Mm-hmm.
you want to fucking throw in here, and you're just
Mm-hmm.
gonna be like a dickhead and just be like, yeah, guess what? This is what happens. You can go
Right.
fuck off. Fuck
Yeah.
that bullshit. I don't give a fuck who it is. I don't know if it's your contract or whatever. If that's something that you're having an issue with, talk to the fucking company that hired you. Not ruining for the fans. Not like, come on, man.
Right.
That's a line where I'm just like,
Yeah.
whether you want to be in the know or not and know this type of thing, you're on the pulse of like a game coming out. Fuck that. That's bullshit. And you shouldn't have shit spoiled for you that you don't intend to be spoiled. If you're looking for it, fine. If you're not,
Yeah.
that's bullshit.
Yeah, it's a terrible thing that something like that happened, and it's just if anyone didn't know about this, and now that they do know, you kind of have to use your own discretion if you want to be able to find that
Filters,
information
all of
out, and if you want to, then again, the only thing that I take from this, and yeah, it's shit like that shouldn't happen. Like you shouldn't have people that could be able to do that, and yeah, I understand being disgruntled and not being satisfied with something and not getting paid. I get all that, but to go out of your way to like give an fu to other people that have nothing to do with it, it's like, come on, man. You at least have you should at least draw that line and like
that.
no, not to do that because you probably worked on other projects that have never come out to the light of day, and if you spoiled that where they're making another sequel to another game, or if they're making another game that's just as polarizing, and you went out of your way to spoil that and tell everybody that, oh yeah, they're making this game, did you guys even know this? So like, no, of course we didn't know. And now that it takes away that element of surprise and the joy of what it is that why people play these games, because they want to see and experience what these people spent years on making.
Years.
So
And
yeah,
okay, if you want to fuck over the company that contracted you, do it that way. Don't fuck
right,
over Naughty Dog, and
right,
their fans because you got pissed off that some contracting company that hired you for this
right,
job, and you're gonna fuck them over.
right,
Why are you? I don't understand.
yeah,
Again, this is just an overview of it, of
right,
what I've read and all this stuff, just to preface everything. But like, it's fucked up. I don't agree with it. It's annoying, and the fact that they have to deal with this at Naughty Dog is insane. But
I know,
to
I know,
to me, it's it sucks. It's one of those things where you can't really put the genie back in the bottle once it's out, especially if people
no,
want to see that it's going to be out there. And again,
yeah,
I'm looking forward to this fucking game. I'm fucking ready.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
fucking go. A
I'm
month
so
away. Let's
I'm
fucking go.
so interested. I'm so interested in like what they're going to be doing with this, and I honestly I steered away. I found out a little bit. I saw a little thing, and I don't know if that's enough for me to be able to just be
Hmm.
like, oh, I'm not going to play this game anymore. No,
Yeah.
because
No.
it's not even just that event. It's like I want to know if that's the event. Okay, that's what I see.
Hmm.
I want to know what happened in between that because there's so many times
So
in
yeah,
that game that you had those pausing moments. You're just like, holy shit, what's gonna happen?
the
Like even
acting,
that's yeah,
everything.
like that scene with Tess when they find out
Hmm.
that she got infected.
Hmm.
That scene alone where she's telling Joel like how important it is to keep Ellie safe, that part where she's explaining that to him, like if there's any ounce of like feelings or love that you have for me, you need to be able to use this because this is real. Like this is what you're seeing with Ellie, why she's so special.
Hmm.
Just that emotional connection that you had with Tess, and you didn't know her that long
Hmm.
within the actual game,
Yeah.
but you connected with that character, and I'm just like, you didn't know what was gonna happen, but I mean, once you saw the actual events of like what happened, you're just like, man, that sucks. You wish it could be different, but it's like
Yeah. And
it's
and,
all about this journey. I have no idea where they're gonna go with it,
and
and
bro,
I'm so curious.
it like fucking. You mentioned that part with Tess, but like, fuck, bro. Remember when you meet the other dude and like the son or whatever the fuck, and that
Yes,
whole
yes.
fucking shit plays out. I'm not gonna spoil
Mm-hmm.
that, but like,
Mm-hmm.
fuck, that was such like a powerful moment where I'm like,
Right.
Ellie has to like, oh my
Yeah.
god,
Yeah.
fuck,
Yeah.
dude. Just I remember showing that part. It's so powerful, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to take those moments. So I would never take that moment away from somebody. I
Right.
would rather play it in front of somebody or show it,
Mm-hmm.
or like whether it's a movie or a game, like this is it. I'm not gonna spoil it. I just
Or
want to
let
see
them
a
play it.
reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see that moment that I did where
Mm-hmm.
I almost fucking cried for these
Yeah.
characters where it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
fuck,
Yeah.
man. And again, someone can spoil a part of it or whatever the fuck, and again, I don't know what they did spoil, but
Right.
it's the journey, not the destination. So if
Mm-hmm.
someone does spoil a part of it and it could fuck up some people's views of the game, fuck, man. It's
Yeah,
the way
that's
start to finish how you fucking play the
yeah.
game. Play the game.
Yeah. That totally sucks, man. But at least, you know, at least the only thing you can do is just stay away from it as much as
Yeah.
possible.
Filters on
If
Twitter, put it on there so you don't see anything pop
yeah,
up. Like, do whatever you can
yeah,
out there.
yeah, that's probably the best advice is just try to steer away if you're really looking forward to
We're a
this.
month away, almost a little more than that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's piggyback that terrible situation into something positive.
Oh God.
Let's jump in. Let's jump in. And you tell me what Kojima's up to.
All right. Well,
Give us our update.
so we'll do this because we went through some depressing shit here. But okay. So from here on out, a little bit of Kojima's corner. Just a little bit of news. Kojima Productions, based off of the COVID issues, they're temporarily closed their offices, and the PC version of Death Stranding is delayed till July 14th. Again,
That sucks.
again, I don't know why I keep talking about this game that I played probably about 15 hours in and haven't completed. And I'm a huge Kojima fan, and people are probably hating me for not figuring out like how great this game is. But I will continue talking about this, even though I have no idea about this game.
Okay.
So there, so the other thing is, I got home from work today and noticed that David Hayter, the voice of Snake, he was on IGN's Up at Noon segment. So he's on there for about an hour. I will watch that, probably, maybe speak on it next podcast because I didn't get a chance to get into it. But again, fast forward it to when he was on, and the first thing he fucking says is he has the Snake voice, and he's going through, and I'm in.
Yeah.
Yes, let's fucking go, bro.
Yeah, that voice is so good.
It's so gravelly. It's so great. I'm so mad that he didn't get to play him in 5. It's so annoying. But the last thing I will mention is some Metal Gear trivia that I'm adding in here. Something new.
Okay.
And I was
something
going
for the kids.
Something for I'm gonna go through, and I'll go through like back further as time goes on. But I went through and I saw this article, and I didn't even know this at all. Believe it or not. So in MGS4's original ending, this is what the title is. MGS4's original ending caused a staff riot. And Kojima being Kojima, I'm like, well, Death Stranding, he had to literally convince everyone that it's a good idea to make this game about basically being a UPS man.
Right.
So I guess I believe it. But it also happened in the Metal Gear Solid 4. So this states not only was Metal Gear Solid 4 polarizing with fans, it was also polarizing with its staff. Instead of Solid Snake finding the will to live and deciding, again, spoilers, to enjoy his remaining months at the end of the game, after reuniting with Big Boss, Kojima intended Snake and Otacon to turn themselves in as terrorists because of what they did, in order to be executed in the game's big finish.
What?
So they were gonna fucking die at the end of that shit.
Wow.
Like, fucking murdered. Naturally, the entire staff rejected this idea and outright refused to work.
Wow.
Unless Kojima agreed to drop the ending. If you ever wondered why.
Crazy.
If you ever wonder why the song Here's to You that plays over the credits at the end of the game, this dark fact is why. I was like,
wow.
Fuck. That shit
That's
ridiculous.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, you gotta imagine, like, when that happened and they saw that, they're just like, no way, you can't do that.
You can't do that.
You can't do, and especially the way that they're doing it to turn themselves in.
Oh no way, no fucking way. After all the things, they were just like,
Yeah,
disregarding government shit, doing their own thing, being mercenary. No, there's no way. And
dude,
they were like almost causing a riot.
that's
I was
that's
like,
crazy, and that was all internal too. So I mean, you got
yes.
to imagine like how long did that take for them to actually do that? Like when
Oh my
people
god.
are unanimous and they're like, no, you can't do
No,
that, and we're not going to work on it. It's like
and it's
how much did he flex? Because he could have easily
right.
been like, okay, well, you guys are going to get all fired then.
Yeah.
This is what I want.
And this was the peak of like him, where like, oh my god, Microsoft coming
You can
off
do
of
whatever you want. Do
coming
whatever
off,
you want.
yeah, literally could do whatever he wants. But
Right.
listen to, oh my god, if that happened, I'm like, what the fuck? What are you doing? But
Dude,
I'm
that
glad
would
it
be
didn't.
awesome. That would be awesome. Just that moment in time, if we can be able to get somebody that worked on that actual game,
Oh my god,
that was part of that process. Because
yeah,
how many times has that happened within games that like you have people that were just revolt and just say no, not
yeah,
only
yeah.
because of the actual game
The
itself and like how
direction.
big it is, the direction, the characters that they molded into, and like why people love them so much.
Mhm.
Dude, that'd be awesome to be able to try to see if we can find somebody and like talk to them about that, or him or her. That would be incredible, dude. Because that's, I mean, for Kojima, man, he could do whatever he wants.
Mhm.
He could do whatever he wants, and
Literally.
clearly he's still showing that he can.
The same shit. He's still fucking just
I
flexing his
know.
ass off. He's like, I don't care. I'll fucking do whatever I
I'll do
want.
whatever I
Pay
do
me.
whatever I want, and
Pay
people are just
me.
like, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, well,
Sure.
we'll make whatever you want.
He's like, a horror game? Oh, well, I'm into horror now. But,
But
a few years later.
what if the back end was like he heard about that, and let's speculate. Let's just say that he heard about it internally and found out that people were mad about it. What if he just turned around and said, okay, what can we be able to fire everybody? The people that are can we make an
Can we
example?
figure it
And
out?
can we fire like the senior ones and show everybody this is my vision, I don't care what you say, and get everybody else to be like, okay, this is what we want? Or did he actually listen? Like, did they have to
I,
come to him like a pitch meeting and like tell him why his own vision is wrong?
I feel like they did. I feel like
That's
all of them
crazy.
sat around with like, bro, no, we can't do this.
That's
That's
crazy,
not.
man.
And again, seeing the vision that he has, it's like, yeah, but you can't do that. Like,
That's crazy.
I think that he was humble enough. I mean, clearly it didn't happen, but
Yeah.
like to be able to understand that he can flex his shit, but at the same
Right.
time, there's only so much you can do. Like he
Right.
didn't. I mean, he put everything, his heart, blood, sweat, and tears into
Mm-hmm.
the franchise and into the character and all that. Big Boss,
Yeah.
Snake, all that. But it
Yeah.
also takes a team. It's not just
Yeah.
one person. So being able to do that, you have to listen to your people. And
Jeez.
sometimes, fuck, man.
You
Yeah.
gotta step aside and
Yep.
just look at your audience.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible, man.
That,
That's great. That's great that I had no idea about that, but that makes sense on why that music comes out. Because if
yeah.
not, if they
Here's
wouldn't
to
have said
you.
anything,
Here's to
yeah,
you. I was
could have
like,
been totally different.
dude, and again, I saw this like today. So
Hmm.
whether that's true or not, I don't fucking know. But it's a great story, and
That is a
and it
great story.
plays out in the way that song starts playing after the
Hmm.
credits. Fuck yeah, that
Yeah,
made it sound amazing.
that's great, man.
So
That's a perfect way to be able to just finish out that ending debacle of this whole people releasing on information like that,
mhm,
and just have a little moment where like, hey, there's people that still care. There's something that happened.
mhm,
It was internally, and look, whether the story happened or not, it's still it
fascinating.
still makes you think.
Yeah, it definitely
That's us.
does. And going back to our structure, guess what? Even though we
Hmm.
stuck to it, we're almost at 3 hours.
I I know it doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't
We
matter.
fucking do what we do. We have fun. It's fun.
We're trying, but it's for anyone, for the
Dude, I
people
don't
that are
give a
still,
shit.
it's just if,
Whatever.
you're still listening, we're still
You
here, so
probably you
we're
probably
still
fell
doing it anyways.
asleep or some shit. I don't fucking know. I don't give a shit. I love.
They're waiting for their Kojima corner segment.
Yeah, they're like, oh, where's the song? Yeah, good. Sign me the fuck up. Let's go. But
Oh man,
it's just been fun.
yeah,
It's always
that's
is.
great, man. I I think at that time, I think you got to imagine like how many people did it take for them to actually stop what they were doing?
Mm,
Like, you gotta just imagine, just think about it, because there's so many people that work on it. Like,
yeah.
how long it took for them to do that, and whether it took a day or whatever, but they had a moment where they can just say no, and that could have been totally different.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I think that's an interesting story. That's really interesting.
It's cool.
So, all right, well, I think that's gonna do it for us for this week. And once again, we're touching on that. We're teetering on that 3 hour mark, man. We're really not trying
I
to,
think
but
that's our sweet spot, I guess.
yeah, we're trying to, man. We're trying to, but the way that it works is that we'll have the podcast that's going to come out on Saturdays, and there's going to be the YouTube version of this same podcast that's going to come out a couple days after. So if you do want to actually see the video version of everything we talked about in the next couple days after the initial podcast gets released, you'll see the video in the link description in the podcast. So wherever you do listen to it, through SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, wherever you listen to it, please, send out some comments, or, just, tell a friend to tell a friend. That's just how this can be able to grow. And,
Yeah.
these, we can be professional at one point in our life,
Yeah,
maybe.
at one point. And follow us on YouTube, Level One Tester, and
Mm-hmm.
at Kirkowski Rob on
Mm-hmm.
Twitter. I'll throw up images when podcasts get released. But
Yeah.
like you said, SoundCloud, things like that.
Yeah.
So we'll throw in some links about stuff that we talked about, whether it was some news articles and things like that, to kind of throw it in there if people haven't learned about how crazy Echo the Dolphin,
That's wild.
and how that creator came up with the concept. So we'll throw that in there too. Little fun fact.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's always been fun, as always.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all we got.
Cool. Well, all right. Well, we'll catch everybody next week, and have a good one.
See you.
All right. Bye.
Peace.